If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 76, Gag. Primeval Azure Wood Art was a very good technique and could enable a cultivator to survive in a prolonged battle of stamina and endurance. As one incurred more and more injuries, their chances of survival would also continue plummeting downwards. Even then, the primeval Azure Wood Art wasn't absolute, and a quick death could invalidate all that healing and endurance bullshit. With his longevity affected and being left with only 10 years of lifespan, Zhao Wei found the chance to brainstorm ideas that could help him avert his not-so-dire situation. Of course, having more lifespan that ranged to even millions of years was good and all, but at the end of the day, you could still be instant killed. Everyone liked having longer lifespans, and cultivators were the most crazy bunch, truly obsessed with longevity. As someone who was once a mortal human, Zhao Wei also wasn't an exception, but the concept of having a long-lasting longevity was just a mini side quest to him. Anyway, to see through most of his goals and ambitions, Zhao Wei had to have the ability to live longer. How many scientists on Earth had come up with theories and discoveries just to leave behind their unfinished works due to being feeble, short-lived humans? The list was long. Naturally, Zhao Wei didn't want to have such a situation happen to him. So if he had any second to spare, Zhao Wei dedicated that time to think about ways of overriding the negative status effect affecting him. The primeval Azure Wood Art was the prime source of inspiration that had given him hope. But you know, even if one wanted something so bad, that didn't mean that they would get it. The world didn't work like that. Failure, frustration, despair, and hopelessness existed for such moments. Zhao Wei failed several times and didn't find a suitable method of circumnavigating the hurdle on his path. He tasted multiple failures but didn't despair, cry, or get frustrated. Zhao Wei only smiled at being challenged once again. He felt that there was a missing link to the puzzling situation he was in. He lacked that spark, something to lighten up his path to the answer. And it seemed the answer couldn't be forced. Zhao Wei had already perfected the 2 half-holy martial arts he had gotten from the treasury hall, and with the use of the various consumable alchemical resources, he had advanced his cultivation to the peak 7th rank. Zhao Wei decided that he should just take a break and maintain his inner serenity. He had already been cooped up in his room for quite a few days, and taking a breather wouldn't be so bad. Zhao Wei opened his door and walked outside after closing it behind him. The ghost grey skies looked gloomy as the thick voluminous dark grey clouds completely blocked the sun from sending its warmth down to all living beings. A chilly breeze whistled past the golden red leaves of the trees inside the Sky Guards battalion. The breeze carried with it an invigorating scent and feel of autumn, which made Zhao Wei close his eyes and instinctually inhale all the goodness nature had to offer. The simple act made him feel as if he had spiritually ascended to the 5th dimension. Life is good. A short murmur of satisfaction and appreciation escaped his perfectly curved lips, only for his voice to be carried by the wind. Zhao Wei looked down at the small golden red leaves gracing his path after being given a free ride by the oh-so-benevolent autumn wind. The formation they had inadvertently formed gave the impression of a red carpet only meant for him. The wonders nature can do. I can't believe that a cultivator, if given time and suitable techniques, can be able to influence the mechanisms of nature. It's simple how we can affect nature even without knowing it sometimes. Mortals are the one feeling that nature is omnipotent, which in all actuality, truly isn't. The cool breeze slightly lifted the ends of Zhao Wei's silky hair as he stood alone with his hands behind his back. Winter is coming. Zhao Wei absent-mindedly mumbled as he reminisced about something from his previous life. How long has it been since I talked with her? Zhao Wei mused as he gazed at the beautiful lady sparring, more like beating them down, with boys that wanted to garner her attention and woo her. It was Zhao Yufei who had experienced a lot after coming to the Sky Guards battalion, a place that dissolved some certain inhibitors of a person's mentality. Her cultivation base was already at limits of the 6th rank, and the barrier separating her from being martial master was so thin that it was almost negligible. Her aura was icy, as if embodying a new change of the season or her character that had evolved after learning the cruelty and degeneracy of mankind. The world was flawed and stinky, and her innocent understanding had been surely but utterly subverted. She had to live for herself. She had to grow stronger or be subservient to the lechery of some wicked men. Not wanting to be trampled, Zhao Yufei had to trample on others more fiercely to give the impression of an empress that didn't bow down to weakness. The men that lusted or sought after her could only crawl on the ground after being defeated by her. Zhao Yufei didn't like any of them. She didn't need to give them any time of her day, but for the sake of her own evolution, her newly gained pride would have to be lowered. Zhao Yufei had already learned much ever since she met that young man, and she was continuing to learn more on her own. Yes, she had grown from a girl to a lady and was currently transitioning to a true goddess. So fierce. How did she grow so strong? Lei Kong wiped at the corner of his lips and momentarily looked at the mercury-red blood on his thumb. I haven't consolidated my cultivation enough, that is why I can't win over you, Zhao Yufei. Now if you will excuse. His bald head subtly shone and reflected light despite the absence of the true brilliance of the sun. Zhao Yufei watched in amusement as the bald monk Lei Kong, ranked second among the sky guards, came up with an excuse to avoid prolonging the fight with her. Okay, bald old man. Zhao Yufei chuckled lightly, her laughter and the sound of her voice immediately sending the young men into a frenzy. Why you? Bitch, just wait and see how I shut your awful mouth after this. I am not a freaking bald old man. His forehead veins popped and became prominent due to his overwhelming anger. Zhao Yufei had realized that Lei Kong was quite sensitive about his age and baldness. Anyway, what a better way to defeat your foe by only saying a few words. That was a tactic she had picked from a scoundrel of the highest order. Shoo then, since you can't defeat me. Zhao Yufei tilted her head to the side as she waved a hand of dismissal. Lei Kong couldn't get any more angry, but there wasn't anything he could do except hide his embarrassment by leaving. The spectators couldn't believe what they were witnessing as they saw someone insanely arrogant and spiteful like Lei Kong take on both a verbal defeat and physical one. Lei Kong, a newly advanced 7th rank martial master, couldn't gain any advantage against a peak 6th rank martial artist. Phew, it seems after gaining insights from those peak rank techniques, I can fight toe-to-toe with a martial master. Thanks to the fight, I have identified my strengths and shortcomings in my attack patterns. An intelligent glint shimmered in her clear eyes as she replayed the battle with Lei Kong. Still not enough. I can do better than this. Zhao Yufei convinced herself, filled herself with the idea that nothing was ever enough. There would always be room for improvement. Just as she was thinking to herself, Zhao Yufei felt a gaze directed toward her. Her cells, her heart, instinctively could tell who it was. Her instincts had grown to know him, his gaze, voice, and presence. Humph! Zhao Yufei clicked her tongue in annoyance. She hated the fact that she had missed him after failing to see him for almost a week. Wei, Gag. Zhao Yufei put on an innocent beautiful smile on her face, that could even capture the hearts of ghosts, as she gracefully ran towards Zhao Wei. Zhao Wei. Gag. You naughty! What was Zhao Yufei up to? Chapter 77, Am I going through changes? The young males who heard how Zhao Yufei intimately addressed another man felt extreme jealousy, wishing that it could have been them instead. Just how lucky could Zhao Wei get to be given exclusive attention by the most beautiful woman in the Sky Guards battalion? Even though they had a lot of jealousy and misgivings, they didn't talk shit or throw a tantrum like how a good-for-nothing young master would react. They chose to keep their mouths shut. It honestly took a lot of willpower from many to prevent themselves from bashing the hell out of Zhao Wei. If they couldn't resist, well, it would be akin to inviting the devil right on one's doorstep. Those who knew Zhao Wei wouldn't want to mess with him if possible. This was a deterrence born from both fear of his ruthless abilities and respect for his more than excellent aptitude despite his current 5th position among the 10 Sky Guards. Information and rumors had already begun circulating among the youths about how much of a cultivation shut in Zhao Wei. Some said that if he wanted to be number 1, nobody could stop him and he was merely being reserved. Some said that he was better than Feng Hanyu but liked to keep a low profile as he awaited the emergence of Lord Guan Jan. There was even a hot news that said he was Zhao Yufei's bedroom daddy. How uncouth. Of course, Zhao Wei came to know about those rumors and speculations but remained silent about it. He lacked the emotional bandwidth to care about each little detail others said about him. Emotional damage? He had immunity against that shit. Flattery? Dog licking was a career that couldn't be erased for an eternity. Even Zhao Wei with his current power, couldn't affect it. It was that powerful as it spread across multiple realities. To Zhao Wei, reputation and fame were like clothes that could be worn and then disposed of at any time. You are surely becoming bold with each passing day, lady. Zhao Wei sternly looked at her without being serious. Lady? I have a name and it's Zhao Yufei, Gag. Zhao Yufei cutely laughed, her white teeth like a set of immaculate pearls. I shouldn't have taught you to be shameless. It was a mistake on my part. Zhao Wei clicked his tongue with visible regret on his face. Poor Wei, don't you know it useless crying over already spilled milk? Zhao Yufei innocently fluttered her eyelashes. Do you want to spar? There is this technique that I have started practicing, but for it to be more refined and perfect, I would need to spar with excellent fighters. Zhao Wei shifted the conversation lightning quick, perfectly pulling an Uno reverse card out of his *SS. What did you have to say about unpredictability? Zhao Wei was unpredictable itself. Zhao Wei gave her a similar innocent smile. Zhao Yufi's jovial expression experienced a complete 180 as it turned sour and dreadful. That's not fair, Zhao Wei. Zhao Yufi nervously bit her lower lips as she fiddled with her dress. The world has always been unfair. You should have gotten that reality check long ago. Zhao Wei wore a foxy grin. Now then. Zhao Wei put one hand behind his back as he tauntingly beckoned Zhao Yufi to attack first. I am lenient enough to give you the first move, Yufi. Do your best. Humph, you only know how to look for ways to bully me. You are a devil. Zhao Yufi looked as if she could almost cry, and she had that pitiful look on her delicate appearance that made the nearby males have an urge to protect her while silently cursing Zhao Wei. Yufi, do you want me to move first? Zhao Wei's lips curved into a smileless smile, a fake smile of the highest order. No. Zhao Yufi immediately primed herself for a fight and a beating. She just hoped Zhao Wei would go easy on her, but deep inside, she couldn't help but want him to be more ferocious and hard on her. She wondered if she was slowly turning into an spiritual wind slice. Star-destroying finger. Gentle fist. Zhao Yufi went all out at the first move, supplementing her 3 successive attacks with all of her peak 6th rank inner strength. The power she was currently displaying would have been enough to completely put Lei Kong into hot soup, since those 3 techniques had all been trained to the peak level, just a little bit into perfection. Zhao Wei had a devilish grin as Zhao Yufi charged at him. A few moments later. Please forgive me. You are being too fierce. Just a little bit. It won't hurt, Yufi. I will be gentle this time around. I don't want to play with you any longer. Stop jumping around like a grasshopper and face me squarely. I promise to spar at the same wavelength as yours. Ah, how can I believe the sweet lies of the devil himself? Haha, you are too cute. Stop it. The words of men can't be trusted, but, see, can you repeat those words? Pa. It was at that moment of Zhao Yufi's hesitation that Zhao Wei's casual slap managed to spank her butt. Boohoo, you baddie. Zhao Yufi's eyes turned teary as she reflexively rubbed her spanked butt. You have no respect for a lady. You mannerless bastard. Just when Zhao Wei's hand was raised for a second spank, Zhao Yufi's expression immediately changed into one of defeat and reverence. You win. I lose. You are the greatest foe I have ever faced. She waved her raised hands in surrender. You are the master. My master. Zhao Wei winced at the bull Zhao Yufi was pulling as he ceased his discipline session, or spar in better terms. The spectators had their mouths open wide in shock and disbelief at what they were witnessing. Pikachu's reaction aside, their facial expressions were the real deal. Now that's a good girl. Zhao Wei complimented her as he patted her head with what was reminiscent of affection and doting. Humph. Zhao Yufi parried his hand away and harumphed before crossing her arms in dissatisfaction. Did you miss me? Dream on. But I missed you. A pink blush spread on her soft cheeks and she turned her face away in embarrassment. I missed you too. She stammered a reply. Zhao Wei laughed at the atmosphere and how Zhao Yufi was acting. He didn't care about the onlookers as he gave in to his amusement. Am I living in a rom-com? I would never have imagined that I would ever interact like this. He thought in silence as he studied Yufi's face. Am I going through changes? It was then that 2 unknowns entered the Sky Guards battalion. Chapter 78, Oh? You are approaching me? Anyway, I am happy that you are going to be a martial master very soon, Zhao Wei said to Zhao Yufi as his amused eyes scanned the 2 new faces at the entrance. How did you know? Zhao Yufi casually asked as her eyes followed Zhao Wei's gaze. She wondered what could have piqued the interest of the hard-to-impress stud. 2 unfamiliar faces? Who are those 2? The 2 unfamiliar youths easily garnered attention due to their contrasting superficial personalities. The first young man was a looker with a smile that could make many both like and dislike him in equal proportions. He looked very dangerous despite his concealed cultivation base. As for his acquaintance, well, he was on the opposite end of the spectrum. His face was expressionless and cold. His eyes didn't hold any interest or impression over anyone. An air of hidden superiority was perfectly ingrained in his very being. He had that I am better than everyone but I won't say at first impression. 6th brother, Don't they look quite diligent and promising? The handsome easygoing youth commented as he gazed at the supposed geniuses who had been training but were currently staring at them. The expressionless one didn't respond as his eyes showed that he was in another world, lost in his own thoughts. The handsome easygoing youth sighed as if he was already used to his sixth brother's snobbish behavior. The handsome easygoing youth was Nan Gongfen and the expressionless youth was Bei Mo. Sixth brother. Nan Gongfen used a voice that would surely annoy anyone and surely, Bei Mo's next glare said it all. I don't care. Bei Mo's response was succinct enough to put anyone back in their tracks. What a killjoy you are, sixth brother. Nan Gongfen whined like a child as he laced his fingers behind his head. Your reaction can be interpreted quite negatively, you know, Nan Gongfen mumbled as his eyes uninterestedly scanned the nearby youths. His eyes only showed slight interest when he gazed at the 10 wooden rooms that normally housed the elites of the Sky Guards battalion. Nan Gongfen, despite his quite outgoing personality, had his own insecurities. He didn't like to feel inferior when he compared himself to his junior, Bei Mo. He could be considered a top genius among his peers, but Bei Mo was better than him. He was more talented than him, more genius than him. The feeling was suffocating for Nan Gongfen. The problem with being jealous is to want your object of jealousy to suffer through setbacks, to be humiliated, and to be humbled for your own satisfaction. That was how much Nan Gongfen has always wanted things to turn out. But his wishes were merely fantasies, since truthfully, there had never been a super genius like Bei Mo ever since they were chosen as disciples by Lord Guan Jan. Hey you all, where's our welcoming party? Nan Gongfen asked in a domineering voice as if he was entitled to everything. Well, Nan Gongfen wanted to have some fun by picking up a fight. It was better for someone to pick up a fight with him. He was curious about the quality of the elites of Sky Guards battalion. Don't you have fighters to defend your honor? Or are you all cowardly trash? Nan Gongfen harshly told everyone. Sixth brother, they are afraid of us. I thought they would defend their dignity if I roused them a little bit. He turned to Bei Mo. I told you so, Bei Mo expressionlessly responded straightforwardly. The nearby youths only clenched their jaws silently and cursed Nan Gongfen in their minds. If there was one thing they had learned from the first time they ever saw Zhao Wei effortlessly take on various challenges, it was the ability to refrain from impulsiveness and the heart to acknowledge one's weaknesses. Zhao Wei didn't teach them personally, but teachings weren't meant to be received in one way only. Zhao Wei himself was oblivious to this information. Clap. 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 Light claps originated from the wooden rooms area and then, followed by a burst of laughter. The people aren't responding to your shit because you talk too much, boy. It was Zhao Wei who was beyond amused by the turn of events. It wasn't about preserving his dignity and being belittled. Zhao Wei didn't care about such mere trifles. It was simply the joy of meeting new familiar characters from the novel. If they wanted to play, why wouldn't he play along just for fun? One individual suffered from an inferiority complex while the other one was too talented for his own good, Zhao Wei analyzed. He recognized them oh so well, even though Nan Gongfen's personality was quite amplified. If there was one thing that Zhao Wei thrived in, it was talking bullcrap and speaking nonsense in serious situations. He liked making light of heavy scenarios. Haha, you were the one that I have been looking for. Nan Gongfen didn't get offended by Zhao Wei's uncensored words, but instead felt that the youth was interesting. His aura, and his looks, kind of made him look inferior, but not in the same way as Bei Mo. It was something else that he couldn't put a finger on. It's good that he can manage his own emotions, Zhao Wei silently complimented Nan Gongfen in his mind. You are being cringy, friend, Zhao Wei said blandly. They were separated by a distance of over 30 meters, but they could hear each other's murmurs just fine. That twinkle, Zhao Yufei smiled to herself as she silently observed the interaction between the two young men. Her attention was more on Zhao Wei. He isn't going to change that aspect of his, anytime soon, Zhao Yufei thought as she watched the talkative youth slowly move toward Zhao Wei. Oh? You are approaching me. Zhao Wei lifted his brows as he smiled mirthlessly. Am I supposed to run away? Nan Gongfen raised his right foot in exaggeration. Ah ha ha ha, you are about to. Zhao Wei released a short laugh before. Chapter 79, Knock off Riptide but better. Zhao Wei's figure seemed to turn blurry, and like how a cell would undergo cell division, his very being seemed to divide into two. The other Zhao Wei was a mirage brought into existence due to how fast he had moved. In an instant, Zhao Wei was already a foot away from the startled face of Nan Gongfen. The mirage he had left behind also began to gradually break down into smoke before disappearing. Wow, that speed is truly something. How interesting. Nan Gongfen thought in surprise as he sized up the Adonis. Too bad, you have brought yourself within my domain, my range extends to most of this space. Nan Gongfen smiled to himself. An eagle never fights a snake on the ground, it picks it up into the air, an aerial domain, where it's king. I am an eagle and you are the snake. Nan Gongfen extended his hand forward and slowly curled his fingers. In that instant, a suctioning force caused by subtle manipulation of the wind was generated and Zhao Wei felt as if something was trying to pull him off his position. Paltry tricks, Zhao Wei said blandly as his body remained rooted down on the ground. He was as steady as an ancient mountain that could withstand the turbulence of nature and the alternating of the four seasons. His back was straight and his stance, unshakable. Zhao Wei felt as if he was being massaged by a breeze. Your ability would have been really good in picking up loot in an open-world game. Ah, it really brings back memories when I remember the game I used to play in my youthful days. The nostalgic, distant tune of Inajima Ost played inside his mind as Zhao Wei instinctively used his index finger to cushion the fall of a free leaf. Open-world game? What is that? And why are you talking like an old man? Nan Gongfen chuckled with confusion on his face. He couldn't understand the youth in front of him. He could resist his initial move that already indicated he was a genius in his own right. Nan Gongfen was taken aback by his calmness and nonchalance but didn't feel anything beyond that. I can be anything I want. Anyone can be whatever they want. It's a matter of perception, Zhao Wei said slowly as he pointed his middle finger at Nan Gongfen. His action elicited a huge reaction from the crowd, even Bei Mo's expression changed a tiny wee bit. As for Zhao Yufei, she was trying to think up ways to prevent the laugh from escaping her lips. Zhao Wei was a funny bastard when the situation didn't demand it. Wasn't he trying to insult Nan Gongfen or what type of scheme was he up to? Zhao Yufei touched her perfectly sculpted smooth chin as she anticipated Zhao Wei's next move. Hey bud, don't you think it should be my turn next? Golden motes of light began flowing through Zhao Wei's hand and concentrated on the tip of his middle finger. The air around his hand began to buzz and the illusion of space twisting and warping could be seen as a result of the extremely high temperatures. Solar finger. That's some dangerous moves but the perfect defense is always the perfect offense. Nan Gongfen got excited as he channeled his inner strength and executed his technique in an instant. Wind turbine technique. A 4-foot-tall tornado appeared and with it, came a force of repulsion that tried to resist the oncoming attack. Bang! Two different forces of nature met in aggression but the resultant winner was a golden light that shone with the brilliance of the sun. It was irresistible. It was overpowering. It was supreme. It was the dawn of annihilation. Shwa! Nan Gongfen watched with his mouth wide open as his technique was overwhelmed by the youth's attack. How? But Nan Gongfen didn't linger on the house and wise as he instinctively raised his two hands defensively. Multiple barriers formed around him as he valiantly faced the attack. Kaka! The first barrier was taken down almost instantly, followed by the second, the third. Nan Gongfen's eyes widened in shock as he implemented other layers of defense the more Zhao Wei's solar finger edged closer. Gosh, he was an 8th-rank martial master, an elite among elites, so why? Why was an attack from someone with a cultivation base weaker than him so damn frustrating and powerful? Nan Gongfen hadn't had much expectations when he had set foot into the Sky Guards battalion. He had also taken it upon himself to drag his 6th brother from his monotonous life of secluded meditation. As a super genius, Bei Mo was not easily impressed by others but he had to admit that the Sky Guard youth was exceptional. After all, he could put up a fight against Nan Gongfen. Only he knew that Nan Gongfen hadn't used all of his strength. But what about the other youth? He didn't know for sure. Arg! A small groan of pain escaped Nan Gongfen's mouth when the solar beam made a small circular hole in his palm. Nan Gongfen gritted his teeth before using his inner strength to stop the bleeding almost instantly but it was too late when he felt something hot poking at the nape of his neck. It was very hot as if a soldering iron had been placed directly on his neck. When? Nan Gongfen asked himself but couldn't immediately get the answers he sought. He was completely taken by surprise, left in the dark before he even saw it coming. He had miscalculated. Nan Gongfen had never felt so wrong as he looked at the solidified solar energy branding his neck skin from the corner of his eyes. How does it feel? Zhao Wei asked vaguely, his question open to many interpretations. To lose? To be defeated? Or are you trying to ask how it feels to be closer to death? A self-deprecating smile appeared on Nan Gongfen's handsome face as he sighed. Are you trying to mock me? Zhao Wei snapped his fingers and the solar beam disintegrated into countless light particles. What would I stand to gain from mocking you? Zhao Wei lifted his brows before smiling mischievously. I was just thinking about your previous tornado attack. Say, buddy. Have you ever seen a real tornado? A real tornado? A collective thought formed inside everyone's mind. Have they ever seen a real tornado? Zhao Wei raised his hand and opened his palm, and from it, a small tornado began to form. Well, don't I look like Riptide from X-Men's Brotherhood? He was prepared to teach Nan Gongfen the essence of a tornado. He felt insanely magnanimous at the moment. Zhao Wei didn't intend to attack him with it either. It was simply for educational purposes. Chapter 80, Bei Moi. What do you think? Do you want to sail with the wind? Become one with it. Zhao Wei taunted as he relinquished control over the small tornado that was quickly increasing in size. From Zhao Wei's palm, the tornado kissed the ground, sweeping and swirling the stones and fallen leaves into a maelstrom. The tornado was so huge and full of destructive power, it seemed as if it could blow away everything to dust. It was over 4,000 feet tall. Beads of cold sweat trickled down Nan Gongfen's ashen face as he witnessed something that he couldn't have ever imagined. And he wasn't alone. The other youths instinctively retreated a step back with the intent of running away with their lives on the line. That simple, mundane action also proved mightily difficult as fear and terror pervaded every cell in their subtly trembling bodies. They all had a common thought: if that great tornado was ever left to run amok, then everything in the Sky Guards battalion would be pulled into it before being ruthlessly ripped apart by its vortex. It gave off the illusion of being unstoppable. Is he truly only a 7th-rank martial master? With this ability, he could easily cause man-made disasters in a country. Nan Gongfen thought in horror. His earlier show of arrogance, superiority, and cheerfulness was no longer at play. What makes it even more hilarious is his fine control over such a force of nature that makes me feel like a cute toddler. I don't think I will survive becoming one with your tornado. Nan Gongfen quickly raised his hands in surrender as a short, awkward laugh left his mouth. I thought so too. You couldn't possibly survive such a free ride to heaven, Zhao Wei said blandly with deliberate sarcasm oozing off his voice. Nan Gongfen tried to hide his embarrassment by looking at Bei Mo. He needed someone else to take on the limelight, or else he wouldn't know how to hide his face. His 6th brother was stronger than him and with highest potential in the Guan Jan palace. Nan Gongfen couldn't find someone more suitable than Bei Mo to shoulder the responsibility of facing the terrifying youth. 6th brother, do you think you can survive one of those? Didn't you once kill a 9th ranker? Nan Gongfen spoke loudly enough for all the people to hear. He seemed to have high hopes for Bei Mo and held great admiration for him. As expected, Nan Gongfen's words immediately caused a ruckus to spread. Truthfully, Nan Gongfen both admired and envied Bei Mo, the Lord's only core disciple, but his jealousy outweighed the admiration he had for the super genius. Zhao Wei showed a one-sided grin when he read through Nan Gongfen's intentions. What a coward! So you want to hide behind your 6th brother's ass and use his hand to take me on? It's understandable that he's jealous and wants to see Bei Mo being embarrassed for once just because he feels inferior. How pathetic! Zhao Wei looked down at Nan Gongfen, who felt as if Zhao Wei's figure was increasingly growing bigger with each passing second. He then looked at the tornado, which was picking up clouds by itself before waving his hand horizontally. His simple action caused the tornado to gradually die down before returning to its docile original form at the palm of his hand. Zhao Wei then clenched his hand close, snuffing the little tornado out of existence. He had wanted to try out an elemental burst of sort, but he feared that he would accidentally cause a lot of casualties and bring himself negative attention. Well, it matters not how you conduct yourself. Zhao Wei rubbed his palms against each other. You are strong. Very strong. The most unexpected person to speak, people might think that he was dumb, suddenly uttered his very first heartfelt words ever since he came with Nan Gongfen to the Sky Guards battalion. Who would have thought that this place would house a defiant of the norm? As expressionless and emotionless as he looked, Bei Moi was a young man of a few words, which made him seem snobbish. He preferred cultivating and improving his martial arts over needless chatter that would get him nowhere. That was his mindset. The mindset of a super genius. He was never lazy, he had never been. He couldn't tolerate the idea of sloth. The people he had met thought he didn't need to put much effort into his cultivation journey, only he knew what had to be sacrificed, what he had to cut off. When man can prove more with his actions in his journey of self-discovery and self-improvement, when were mere words going to be part of the equation? Bei Moi abided by his own self-made rules and those of the people that had helped him improve significantly, like his master, Lord Guan Jan, who took pride in him. Benefits, unearthed potential and unimpeded growth was what described a true genius. Bei Moi had never had a true rival ever since he set foot at Guan Jan Palace and became the Lord's only core disciple. He was allowed to be arrogant as he trampled over thousands of geniuses. Seeing someone as incredible as Zhao Wei emerge from a group of unremarkable youths, gave rise to a new feeling inside of him, the feeling of wanting to suppress him, to show who was better, smarter. It was just a show of youthful indulgence and competitiveness. Deep within him, Bei Moi recognized that he liked being the alpha and never a second to none, just like a few other geniuses. Being defeated or being tarnished didn't conform to his ideals, for he was Bei Moi. Bei Moi hoped, no, wanted the remarkable silver-eyed youth to live up to the hype he had caused. Could he mitigate his lack of enthusiasm? Could he cure his monotonous life? Is that supposed to be a compliment? Zhao Wei lifted his brows and realized the sudden shift in Bei Moi's aura. He knew it very well. He could smell it, he could taste it, that ingrained arrogance, the signature feature of a capable genius. But Bei Moi's was different. It wasn't half-baked. It stemmed from boredom and a lack of enthusiasm when it came to others around him. He was bright and blazing like an everlasting light that outshined his peers. He was light, he was the shadow. No, Bei Moi replied coldly and ignored Nan Gungen, whose pure jealousy he had always recognized but chose to ignore it. When has an elephant ever cared about the feelings of an ant? That jealousy and envy only reminded him that he was better than them. That he had achieved another milestone in his arduous training, never getting complacent. Haha, you are something else, friend. Zhao Wei began walking slowly in circles. He looked like Virgil before teaching Dante a lesson. I am not your friend. I know, bastard. Zhao Wei cracked an evil smile, his silvery eyes feeling joy at seeing the emotions of Bei Moi go into disarray. He didn't like it. That was his first time being blatantly insulted in front of his face. How sharp-tongued. Come at me. Bei Moi merely scoffed at Zhao Wei's cheekiness. What mattered most was how the brazen youth was going to fare against him. He wanted to spar with him. But how was Zhao Wei going to respond? Chapter 81, Our Eyes Don't Meet. I like your arrogance, but aren't you acting up with such a condescending attitude? Zhao Wei smiled widely, his white teeth radiating stellar lights for a moment. Zhao Wei unhurriedly walked towards Bei Moi as if he were taking a casual walk inside a park. Bei Moi blinked once and he found Zhao Wei to have already covered half the distance. Despite how damn slow a tortoise is, it always reaches its destination, friend. Zhao Wei touched his chin in introspection. You are done. I gave you a chance to make up for your weak cultivation base, but you didn't take heed to my kind consideration. Bei Moi smiled coldly. The difference between us. Bei Moi seemed to materialize into grey mist, and before long, he was already within the striking range. He then raised his hand and expelled his inner strength to attack Zhao Wei, whose eyes seemed not to be concerned by his attack. His mind was still on the movement technique used by Bei Moi. An analysis of the technique was heavily being carried inside his mind realm. The minute details, the transition from tangible to intangible, the calculated circulation of inner strength, everything could be deduced. To know his enemy, his opponent, Zhao Wei had taken it to the next level. The movement technique was interesting, and it honestly reminded him of mist-breathing 7th form, almost like how Nightcrawler could teleport, but it was just a super fast forward motion. Magnify. Ripple of destruction. Bei Moi's voice was low and lethal as his inner strength rumbled with the intent to destroy everything. Vibration. The laws of vibration. Zhao Wei thought as he used his hand to have a taste of Bei Moi's attack. Bang. Zhao Wei felt a destructive intent wreak havoc in his hand, damaging his vessels and breaking his skin, but his face remained unfeeling, unaffected by the pain. Bei Moi was taken aback by Zhao Wei's craziness and the guts he had to take on his attack head-on without evading. To top it all, despite the severe internal and external damage done to his hand, his emotions still remained the same. Did he just smile? Does he have a few screws loose inside his head? Also, how the hell is he still standing after receiving my attack that can easily send 8th-ranked martial masters flying? Bei Moi racked up his mind as he tried to understand the peculiar youth. Maybe it was just a fluke, he thought. No, I don't think so. He took the attack head-on but contained the effects of my technique to half his arm. This means he has crazy inner strength manipulation skills that are even better than some 9th rankers. Beimoy frowned. He couldn't fathom the absurdity of the situation. It inevitably filled him with ire. His attack didn't make his opponent completely incapacitated in the first try. The peculiar youth was only a 7th rank martial master, unlike him who was already in the peak of 8 rank and could easily slay most 9th rankers, or so he thought. What made him even madder was Zhao Wei's smile. His opponent was clearly mocking him. First comes destruction. Zhao Wei suddenly looked at Beimoy like a horror movie archvillain. Your technique has been duly analyzed. Rejoice. He raised his damaged hand, and the way it was rapidly healing could be vividly seen. Mist, smoke, and shadows share the same essence of intangibility, so it isn't that hard to recreate what Beimoy did. I am happy because it makes me relieve my youth, the infinite possibilities slowly being actualized in the form of mystical arts. Zhao Wei laughed. He was the type to get high on new techniques. Knowledge that served no purpose and knowledge that served a purpose was all knowledge to him. There wasn't a distinctive line when it came to different types of knowledge. With the increase in knowledge in his slow journey of self-discovery, some doubts had begun to surface in his mind regarding the God Eye variant. The way he could analyze techniques made him think of the Alpha Stigma, but he didn't have the magical eye. The initial description of "Stop ignoring me, B*TCH. Beimoy had an emotional outburst as he attacked with overwhelming momentum. His ripples of destruction spread like pulses that made the ground within a 20-meter radius to shatter. Such an ultra-destructive power could surely decimate anyone below the 9th rank into minced meat and even kill a typical 9th ranker. From tangible to intangible, Zhao Wei imitated the mist transformation that had initially been done by Beimoy as he evaded his shockingly strong attack. In the next moment, his face was inches away from Beimoy's, staring menacingly, his eye venomously daggering his brazen opponent like a primordial serpent. All offenses are predicted beforehand and all defenses crumble before me, Zhao Wei spoke emotionlessly, his silvery eyes carrying a crimson tint as he abruptly placed his right hand on Beimoy's left shoulder. Confusion instantly settled in Beimoy's face, finding the situation incomprehensible. Zhao Wei was so fast and his brain wasn't fast enough to process whatever had happened. Crack! In an instant, Beimoy felt his left arm's bones almost shatter and his flesh rupture. The pain immediately eliminated the confusion clouding his vision, and he gritted his teeth to resist letting out any sound. He tried to move his body, but he couldn't. He couldn't move his muscles. What is happening? What is he doing to me? Why can't I control my body? Unacceptable. Kneel. A cold voice sounded from Zhao Wei's lips. I won't. Beimoy met Zhao Wei's gaze with defiance. Kneel. The next moment, Beimoy felt his world go round and round, followed by a suffocating pressure that mercilessly pressed down on him, forcing his knees to shatter the ground and dig deep. This is where your eyes meet mine. Zhao Wei looked down at Beimoy with apathy. What? Everyone was shocked. What had just happened? Why was Beimoy kneeling before Zhao Wei? Everything was happening so fast that it looked as if time was being fast-forwarded. Was Beimoy so weak? Am I weak? Have I been mistaking myself for being strong this whole time? Am I living in an illusion? Beimoy's lips trembled, his body involuntarily shivering as if he were subjected to an environment of extreme cold. What did it mean to be strong? Aren't I a super genius? Why? Just why am I kneeling before a man? Just why? His willpower mattered not in the face of an illusion of absoluteness. Why you used underhanded means to? Beimoy screamed at Zhao Wei. Shut up! Zhao Wei commanded. You are the result of your own ineptitude. Wah! Chapter 82, Acknowledging One's Inferiority. His mind has been shaken and his whole perception of the world around him is slowly being shattered. How sturdy is his willpower? Beyond the veil of a labeled super genius, then what are we left with, Beimoy? Zhao Wei smiled faintly as he studied Beimoy's face. A face that currently showed no arrogance nor assured confidence, but one that showed confusion, fear, disorientation, and a mirror of existential self-questioning. Beimoy's eyes were unfocused and his handsome face twisted in agony and defeat as he shouldered a gargantuan pressure akin to 100 mountains. That was how he perceived Zhao Wei's strong grip on his shoulder. Who am I? Why am I weak? How could I be overpowered by someone younger and inferior than me? How is he so strong? This isn't true. I am the #1 genius with no equal. Zhao Wei sighed in pity as he observed the sorry excuse of the so-called genius. The world is huge, friend, vaster than we could ever imagine, Zhao Wei said in a low tone as he lifted his eyes to the gloomy skies. Super genius with no equal? What is that? Honor. That's stupid and something that only a frog in a well could say. Bei Moi wanted to retaliate with harsh words of his own, but a single downward glance from Zhao Wei made him throw away whatever freedom of speech he had left. The amendments didn't matter in a lawless cultivation society where a higher order of strength denied all sorts of expressions and freedom. I dare not blow my own trumpet of being more exceptional and brilliant than everyone. I dare not say I have no equal when I have yet to wield almighty power. Friend, I am also a frog in a well somehow. Zhao Wei chuckled lightly, his unpredictable attitude creating confusion among those who heard his words. Bei Moi was the most confused. You are a genius of your generation. Why not embrace superiority and exercise perfection over everyone? Superb enviable talent? Why shouldn't I feel honored and wallow in praise? Zhao Wei ceased his overbearing play and sighed. There was a slight burning pain in his eyes that extended all the way to his optic nerves, and it was annoying, to say the least. We all have various flawed reasoning ingrained in our beings. Yours is severe. You lack one aspect of a bona fide genius, and that is humility. Haha, I am not one to talk to you about humility, as I am also an arrogant run-of-the-mill genius. You may have been lauded as a super genius, but that only applies to Cloud Country. How many countries like Cloud Country are there? How many great countries are there? How many continents? What about beyond the seas and the clouds? We know nothing of the unknown, and instead of wallowing in self-satisfaction, we should contemplate on our inferiority and lower our pride to better understand the world around us. Why are you talking as if you have seen whatever you are talking about when you are just a bumpkin from the same country as I? Bei Moi asked the question that was plaguing everyone's mind. Ha, as you have said, I am a bumpkin, but what separates me from you lot is that I am a thinker. Zhao Wei explained comfortably, not at all offended by Bei Moi's straightforward words. What? Bei Moi was affected by Zhao Wei's strong conviction about certain matters. I like to think, to speculate about many things. Have you ever asked yourself about your purpose in life? My purpose? The question echoed in every youth's mind. What is the purpose of my existence? Bei Moi became lost in those words, Zhao Wei's words constantly ringing inside his brain. What is your purpose then? Bei Moi reiterated Zhao Wei's words back to him. My purpose? I don't know. Why you don't know? Bei Moi hid his annoyance. But a few seconds later, Zhao Wei continued with an easygoing smile. I am still searching, and I have yet to understand it myself. So he is just like us? A collective thought ran through everyone's minds. And you want to know the reason why I was able to triumph over you? Zhao Wei posed the question that had been disturbing Bei Moi's mind when he was realistically supposed to be better. He had a few holy martial arts in his arsenal of techniques that were vastly superior to Zhao Wei's. So why? Why was he defeated and played with by his opponent? Wasn't he stronger than most 9th rankers? Then did this mean that a mere 7th rank martial master was able to contend against a 9th ranker? How shocking was that? Bei Moi nodded hesitantly, dreading to hear about the obvious. Zhao Wei seemed to consider how to answer Bei Moi. I guess I am just built differently, and my ambitions are greater than even me, which, in itself, sounds so damn ridiculous. Talent and potential matter, but aren't the deciding factors of a future powerhouse. Just like how a journey has different paths, everyone has their own suitable path to follow to reach their goals. People can experience growth in numerous ways. It's all about adaptability and having a dynamic mind instead of being fixated on a singular aspect. Zhao Wei's words seemed to spread far and wide, even beyond the confines of the Sky Guards battalion. To one particular existence. A being that Zhao Wei had just noticed, whose sole interest was on the current transpiration of matters. He didn't seem angry about the circumstances of his most prized core disciple. He only showed a slight frown as his face showed numerous changes with each passing second. He had been forced to avail himself after being given some unbelievable news by his outer disciple, Third Guard. His core disciple, Bei Moi, had been overpowered squarely by another disciple from the Sky Guards battalion. Bei Moi couldn't resist and had been forced to his knees with just a single hand. How could he, Lord Guan Jan, believe it? The news had forced him to leave his seclusion, which was only a few days from reaching its end. But after seeing firsthand the way Bei Moi kneeled before a 14-year-old youth whose halo shone more resplendent and eclipsed his, Lord Guan Jan immediately understood something. In the world, there still existed individuals more monstrous than even Bei Moi. If that was the youth's battle prowess, then what about his potential? His talent? And why did it feel that his words were solely meant for him? Was it just a coincidence? Or was he just overthinking? Lord Guan Jan showed a slight smile. We will see what promise you hold, young man. Talent and potential are everything in this universe. Lord Guan Jan then gazed at the sky with reminiscence, and a few moments later, he sighed before disappearing from the tall tree he was standing on. Becoming one with the surroundings, hey? Meanwhile, a barely discernible knowing grin formed on Zhao Wei's lips. Various thoughts ran through his mind as he caught the enigmatic figure of Lord Guan Jan from his peripheral vision while maintaining a healthy conversation with Bei Moi. Are you going to continue kneeling? You should never willingly kneel before anyone. Zhao Wei scolded Bei Moi. What a chameleon! You are the one who forced me on my knees, and now you are speaking as if I kneeled by myself. What sort of injustice was that? Why do I have to suffer through this bastard's evilness? Why your hand is still holding me down? Bei Moi gritted his teeth in suppressed anger. His arm hurt like hell. It's just a pity he lacked an aspirin, hee, as if there were any. Zhao Wei was now being a troll. Oh, I was still holding you. I forgot about that. Zhao Wei removed his hold from Bei Moi's shoulder with an innocent expression on his face. He then turned his back to Bei Moi, who was slowly supporting himself off the ground. So stupid of him to turn his back to the enemy. But something I have come to understand about this bastard is his deviousness. You want me to enter your web? Continue dreaming on. I have to thank you for wizening me up. Bei Moi held his right dislocated shoulder and managed to put everything in place. His face remained passive even with the throbbing pain assaulting his entire arm. What do I call you? Zhao Wei inquired, but Bei Moi swore he could visualize that shitty smile on his sagely face. I am, Bei Moi. I go by the name, Zhao Wei, the wife beater. Aren't we friends now, Bei Moi? Fuck off. Bei Moi grumbled with venom. And what followed next was a hilarious burst of laughter from Zhao Wei. Are you going to fall into despair or rise like a dragon from this humiliation and defeat? And thus, the complicated relationship between Zhao Wei and Bei Moi began. Was it the start of a peculiar friendship or rivalry? Was Bei Moi going to alter his flawed reasoning? Chapter 83, Self-Awareness. As one rises higher and higher, it is inevitable that one might fall as well. This was a law. Nothing ever went as planned. The reality of the world was different. Murphy existed for a reason. To right the wrongs or make the wrongs more wrong. A genius, lauded with as many praises and envy as they could ever wish for, could rise and shine brighter than his peers. A genius was like the full moon, and the stars were the normal people surrounding him. Nan Gungen, an outer disciple of the mystified Lord Guan Jan, was one of the stars that glittered and surrounded the full moon, Bei Moi. Even though there existed various types of stars, Nan Gungen was unmistakably on the smaller side. Bigger than the moon was the sun. The sun was bigger, denser, and brighter than the moon. But, even the sun could be eclipsed by the moon. The youth named Zhao Wei wasn't the sun or the moon or one of the generic stars. He was something else. He was more. A red supergiant? A galaxy maybe? Zhao Wei was like a black hole with no limits, with no dynamic feedback process. He could swallow the stars, the moon, and the sun. Nan Gungen saw it that way. If Bei Moi was a super genius, an elite among elites that overshadowed his peers, then Zhao Wei was an entity that devoured the said super geniuses. A demonic devourer. More unreasonable. More powerful. More unpredictable. Nan Gungen felt he was simply unmatched as per what he had already observed. No, he didn't yearn for that power. He couldn't envy it or feel jealousy toward it. It terrified him. It kept the hairs on his back on end. It made him feel weak and powerless. It was a level that he couldn't ever wish to reach. Dreams of being invincible? Those were mere illusions. The youth not only held unopposed strength among his peers but also quite a handful insights of into life. He was very peculiar, verging on eccentricity. Who could act and speak carefreely like him? Nan Gungen could never imagine himself like that, even though he was very social. Nan Gungen had an inkling that that person could even speak bullshit and many would believe him. He, himself, included. The words from Zhao Wei's mouth carried too much authenticity. Even though he had already profiled Zhao Wei's base attitude, Nan Gungen couldn't truly decipher the man behind that handsome face. He felt himself too stupid to even try, and he gladly accepted his own inferiority. One's own path and resilience, hey? Even though it would take time to erase his inner feelings of envy and jealousy toward the exemplary and true geniuses, Nan Gongfen was determined to turn over a new leaf. He didn't want to live that life of always comparing himself to others who were despairingly more talented than him, a gap that was nigh impossible to overcome. Bitching about every little disadvantage that one had wasn't gonna cut it. Some people were just meant to be better and more talented. The world was an unfair place in the first place. Just make a chilled lemonade from the lemons it threw in your way. Even though Zhao Wei wasn't going to know or care, Nan Gongfen felt that he had helped him. That change in mindset was all he needed. Sixth brother, are you okay? Nan Gongfen carefully asked as he gazed at Beimoi's injured arm. I am all right. Beimoi expressionlessly replied as he walked away from the Sky Guards battalion grounds. He didn't want to stay there any longer. Those under the discipleship of Lord Guan Jan were meant to be brothers under the same master and not enemies. It was a rule and that's why they addressed each other as such. Nan Gongfen momentarily looked at the back of Zhao Wei. He's met all the conditions to be our master's next core disciple, but what would master think about him? How is he going to react in the face of this monster? Would master be pleased with him? Well, it doesn't matter. I feel that his spot is already reserved. We will meet very soon, Zhao Wei. Nan Gongfen then turned away and followed Beimoi, who was surely walking so quickly, in frustration. Sixth brother, wait for me. Nan Gongfen called out to Beimoi in a goofy way. This only made Beimoi increase his pace as Nan Gongfen followed behind with a cheeky grin on his face. Zhao Wei was it? What an interesting lad. Master would surely be surprised by the quality of our geniuses this time round. I didn't expect one of them to wield such might at a very young age, 1 year younger than the super genius, Beimoi. Third guard grinned after watching everything unfold at the practicing grounds. He seems like someone who has faced death and despair but overcame it all to grow stronger. What sort of experiences did he go through to have such thick killing intent, and how the hell can he still remain in control? Third guard is the one in charge of the Sky Guards battalion. There was nothing that happened within the Sky Guards battalion that he didn't know unless he feigned ignorance over some matters. I didn't believe master yet at first, but it seems I was gravely mistaken. I should inform the Lord. No, I will just wait for him to leave seclusion. It won't be long anyway. From the rooftop of the main building, the man known as Third Guard couldn't help but anticipate the day when his lordship would choose disciples. He then looked at the receding figures of Beimoi and Nan Gongfen as various thoughts ran through his mind. Little brother, without defeat how can you hope to be much more than a super genius? This is the life beyond. The world outside is harsher and crueler than you think. He sighed and then disappeared. Zhao Wei exhaled gently, ignoring the looks of reverence, envy, and admiration from the surrounding youths. Soon. It was pure coincidence that Lord Guan Jan saw the situation inside the Sky Guards battalion. Was it Third Guard that told him, or was it Yelingyan, or maybe it was by own volition? Zhao Wei didn't know. He didn't care. He had already achieved the best possible scenario. The journey is about to branch off to another path once again. Zhao Wei only believed in himself, prayed to himself, didn't trust fate, and took self-dependency to a whole new level. Whatever means he was going to use to grow powerful didn't matter. Using others? What was wrong with that? Lord Guan Jan served a greater purpose. He was the gateway to actualize one of Zhao Wei's plans. After all, everything had to go according to plan. Chapter 84, Wild Thoughts. Though she didn't want to admit it sometimes, the young man she was looking at had grown considerably pleasing to the eye. She had yet to fully understand him. He was funny. He could sometimes be humorless. He was predictable at times due to her observation and their closeness, but his unpredictability had always shaken her heart. He could be wise and stupid at the same time, and she always wondered just how the two different personalities could entirely coexist. She had also realized he was flawed, and he had further admitted it himself. She had once thought he was perfect even though his mob-like appearance said otherwise, but with time, she had come to like his imperfections. He was a natural charmer, and she feared that with how things were going, she wouldn't be the only woman unable to resist the mysteries cloaking his being like armor. He was deadly. More lethal than she could ever imagine. And with each passing day, she realized she was falling. Falling deeper into the abyss known as Zhao Wei. Her heart was at risk, and she understood that fact very well. He had warned him, his words hurtful and sharp to the point of cutting through her maiden heart. Zhao Wei had changed her. She had changed herself. She had mended her heart right after and come to terms with his peculiarities. Zhao Wei was a hard game, and as the fool she was, Zhao Yufei was determined to crack the game. The difficulty level didn't mean anything due to her newfound perspective. By throwing caution to the wind, she, Zhao Yufei, was going all in. She was on a quest to affirm her own path and to conquer the almost frozen heart of a low-key villain who preferred neutrality overall and chose to do things the way he wanted. To achieve what she yearned for, what she craved, her vision had to be grander and ambitious similar to his. He had told her that he believed in her hidden potential, and she couldn't be more assured of herself. The young man's eyes always gave her the feeling that he could see through anyone and anything. Currently, he looked more devastatingly attractive in the superficial sense which she had come to not give a damn about. She wanted to know more about the man behind that veil of different characteristics. She liked him for who he was as a person. Damn, she almost low. Hey beautiful, why are you spacing out? Are you thinking about life? Maybe, about me. A pink blush involuntarily colored her cheeks and the tips of her ears reddened. Even without looking at him, Zhao Yufei swore she could always envision that heart-stopping smug smile on his lips. Narcissist. Do you think everything's about you? Zhao Yufei harumphed but failed to hide her embarrassment. Anyone but him could do that. To have such a profound effect on her state of mind. I am hurt. How could you be so mean to me? Zhao Wei showed a hurt expression on his face. Did she forget how playful and childish he was? She, especially, liked that side of him. Zhao Yufei frowned with a fake repulsed expression and clicked her tongue venomously. I always wonder how you can pull off those contrasting expressions without trying. I have never seen you act like that with others. Zhao Wei remained silent to her inquiry for a few seconds. He then looked at her squarely. His silvery eyes captivated hers, pulling her into a momentary trance. Because, you are special. With those words, he left her and went to his room. Because, you are special. You are special. 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 The words rang like a rhyme inside her frozen mind. She was in a never-ending loop of those words. After coming to herself, Zhao Yufei hurriedly walked to her room and shut the door behind her. She then leaned her back against the door and allowed herself to slowly slide down to the ground. Her face was steaming and her forgotten shyness seemed to have surfaced back due to the effects of his words. His deep masculine voice. She hid her face with her delicate hands for a moment before she cutely caressed her pink cheeks. Zhao Yufei then pouted and puffed her cheeks like a hamster and exhaled lightly but still failed to calm herself. Her heart was incessantly beating against her chest. She slowly placed her hand between her perky breasts, or in other words, the valley of bliss. She could feel her excited heart through the touch of her palm and hear its thumps through her ears. She was losing it. How am I supposed to react and feel when you say those words? Do you think I am a weak woman who would easily fall for your words? Special? Am I truly special to you, bastard? Did you mean it or are you playing with me? Gosh, I can't understand you. Zhao Yufei sighed silently and placed her hands on her knees before casting her eyes at the ceiling. So unfair. She grumbled in a low, sensual voice. Zhao Wei. A murmur left her luscious lips, then a dangerous, crazed glint shone in her lovely eyes. It seems you can only be mine. I am obsessed. She then smiled wickedly like a crazy enchantress enamored by something, by someone worthy of her utmost interest. She was like a pure demoness. Zhao Wei. She silently called out to him. For him to know that she liked him, wanted him, but the wall of unrequited love was almost insurmountable. She could endure, for him. She was determined. Zhao Wei. He was hers and she was his. Inside a wooden room, Zhao Wei sneezed exaggeratedly. Damn, who is talking so bad about me? Is it Yufei? No, she wouldn't. Then, Zhao Wei suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. It was a bad feeling, and this time round, it was more intense. Weird. He brushed it off, since this time, he didn't register the feeling of death, of his life being at risk. Zhao Wei didn't know that his life wasn't exactly at risk in the normal sense, but by something else. A woman. He wouldn't expect that. He wasn't the only unpredictable factor. He planned and foresaw things that might help him in his path, but anything outside that, he could sometimes be blind. Those words he had initially spoken to Zhao Yufei didn't hold much value to him, as much as they were being taken seriously by the beautiful maiden in question. She was evolving, well, in other ways. Zhao Wei was in deep sh*t, but he would only find out about it later on. Meditation is the way. Zhao Wei closed his eyes and calmed his mind as he awaited Lord Guan Jan's call that he had already predicted. He could be insensitive at times. He treated Zhao Yufei like a true friend that he didn't always trust, which made it quite contradictory. But Zhao Yufei was the only person closest to him. She was entitled to be special. That was his perspective. Did he fully understand human feelings? A woman's feelings? Chapter 85, Lord Guan Jan. Inside the main building, Third Guard sat cross-legged on a futon made out of rare wool-like material with his eyes calmly closed. He was in a tranquil state as he silently cultivated his mind and purified his inner strength. Not everyone was like Zhao Wei or some other extreme talents that could generate pure inner energy by just cultivating. As an outer disciple of Lord Guan Jan, he was able to access any exceptional technique ranging from peak ranked level to holy rank that could sharpen one's mental senses. All of a sudden, he opened his eyes. His eyes were plain black, but they were sharp and mirrored his numerous experiences. He couldn't be underestimated, and the aura of a seasoned fighter was strong on him. He gazed at the door. He had already sensed someone there, and from the aura they were radiating, only one thing could be inferred. Get in. Third Guard ordered, and the doors slowly opened before a man clad in black respectfully entered. On his breastplate, there was an ordinary silver insignia. The man clad in black then knelt before Third Guard. I pay my respect to the general. Arise. Third Guard commanded, to which the man clad in black, a soldier of low rank in the Guan Jan Corps, adhered. What kind of news do you have for me? He then blandly asked. The Lord has sent me for you and has said that he would be at the spiritual martial hall, the soldier explained meticulously, not wanting to err in any of his words. Third Guard arched his brows. Master has already finished his seclusion. Well, that is surprising. I thought it would be like 4 more days before his secluded retreat ended, as per what he had already told us. You may leave. Third Guard dismissed the soldier. After the soldier left, he supported his right cheek with his clenched hand that was resting on his thigh. I wonder what Master wants to talk about. Third Guard then rose from the futon and proceeded to walk out of the building. A few minutes later, he was at the front of an ancient-looking grey hall whose doors were wide open. It was the spiritual martial hall. Third Guard didn't enter immediately and stood like a statue at the entrance. It was a form of respect. Xiao Feng, come in. A mysterious voice sounded from the depths of the hall. Xiao Feng. Only Master would call me that name when I prefer being called Third Guard. Third Guard had a reminiscent smile on his face as he respectfully entered the spiritual martial hall. The hall was huge and spacious, and it felt empty. At the end of the hall was a middle-aged man with vibrant blue eyes that reminded him of the limitless ocean. He adorned well-embroidered golden robes that spoke volumes of his majesty, yet did nothing to alleviate the air of ordinariness surrounding him. He may have looked like a commoner, but there was something about him that made people subconsciously see him differently. Like he was in a higher position. He was Lord Guan Jan, the legendary man who was a force to be reckoned with in the Cloud Country. He was allegedly the top expert in the entire country according to his past warrior achievements. He was obviously in a different league due to his cultivation base. Lord Guan Jan had already ascended. I pay respects to the Master. Third Guard bowed respectfully. It's nice to see that you are doing fine, Feng, Lord Guan Jan said with a faint smile before nodding at the extra futon beside him. Third Guard murmured a thanks before sitting on the futon. What about you, Master? How was your seclusion? Third Guard looked at Lord Guan Jan with admiration shining off his black eyes. There was no one he admired more than his master. After all, he was the strongest person he'd ever known. And also, he was his master, someone akin to a parental figure. Third Guard has never had a lack of top-tier cultivation resources due to being a disciple of Lord Guan Jan. The master was generous to all his disciples, even if they were outer disciples. It was fine, Lord Guan Jan replied. By the way, how are the kids doing? He asked Third Guard. They have improved significantly, and I am confident that you would be pleased by them, Third Guard told him with a look full of expectations. He wanted to talk more about the geniuses of the Sky Guards battalion, especially one particular oddball. There was someone out there that could really defeat his super genius younger brother, Bei Moi. Master would be interested in hearing the story about Zhao Wei. Lord Guan Jan acted surprised and waved his hand for Third Guard to expound more. Bei Moi got utterly outclassed by a youth younger than him in the Sky Guards battalion. Third Guard seemed excited as he spoke about the hot news that had spread specifically in the Sky Guards battalion. Bei Moi was defeated? By who? From Lord Guan Jan's tone, his interest seemed to have been totally piqued even though he had a rough idea about the matters of the event. His name is Zhao Wei, a youth from Sun Feather City. He was brought together with another genius young lady by Brother Yat. Third guard shared that piece of information. So his name is Zhao Wei. Lord Guan Jan thought, but his expressionless face gave nothing away. He also bested Nan Gungen in what he was best at. He can't be simply called a genius. He is a monster in a league of his own. I have a feeling that I would lose against him if he was serious. It's my intuition as a seasoned warrior, but it also makes me want to test his full strength. Third guard continued with a complicated expression on his handsome face. Oh? This is interesting. Truly interesting. Lord Guan Jan nodded repeatedly. His excitement was almost palpable. He could see hope due to the fact Xiao Feng gave his personal opinion, and he couldn't spot any lies in his words. Lord Guan Jan had known Third Guard ever since he took him in as his outer disciple. He was the second eldest. He may have the capabilities of overpowering geniuses, but then what about his potential? Lord Guan Jan silently thought. Could he be the one I am looking for apart from Bei Moi? What do you think, Master? I must fully assess them for myself. Lord Guan Jan offered his verdict. Let the top 10 exceptional geniuses of your nurturing meet me here tomorrow, Lord Guan Jan said. I will pass on the message as you have commanded so that they may prepare themselves. Third guard stood up immediately. Good. I want to see someone who Zhao Wei truly is. For someone whom you are truly vouching for, he shouldn't be too shabby, right? Lord Guan Jan smiled at his disciple. I guarantee you won't be disappointed, Master. Third guard promised with extreme confidence after all he knew about everything in the Sky Guards battalion. It was his own domain. Chapter 86, Nat, I'd win. From within his body, blood full of vitality was constantly circulating and being refined, being made pure and thick, almost viscous. His bone marrow was golden like the scales of a supreme golden dragon, but contrary to expectation, it didn't produce golden blood. His bone marrow was of the highest quality after numerous refinements from his celestial inner strength. The celestial inner strength also tempered his bones, while the triluminary's energies from the celestial heaven made him stronger, and faster, and gave him potent regenerative abilities. His potential was simply otherworldly. The myriad constellation physique was a glitch in this simulated reality, the dream of a slumbering creator. He had only tapped into a fraction of its capabilities, and even with his foresight, he couldn't anticipate its future prospects. Well, the thing about the future was you couldn't ever fully count on the future since it was prone to infinite changes. As for potential, it was just potential. Nothing else. What was potential in the face of existential erasure? What was potential in the face of death? Life was fickle and short, and the same applied to cultivators with long lifespans. Zhao Wei exhaled gently and slowly opened his eyes. The silver of his eyes shone in the dark room like two little moons, making the scene beautiful. He clenched his right hand, and the sound of his bones crying in joy greeted his ears. Zhao Wei could feel the undeniable power coursing through his hands, veins, and his entire body. He felt almost nuclear. The illusion of growing stronger always makes one think that they can tackle anything in the world. How funny! Zhao Wei murmured to himself with a faint smile. That isn't the strength I seek. He then rose from the ground. Zhao Wei realized he had meditated for hours as he gazed at the inky night sky through the ceiling of his room. I will never get enough of how time can pass very quickly when one is invested in meditation. I barely managed to stay awake during my medical biochemistry and physiology classes, but here I am spending hours, days, and even possibly years in cultivation. Zhao Wei chuckled softly as he went outside. It was in the middle of the night, and instead of a full moon, there was a new phase in place. It looked less visible, but Zhao Wei could see its grey and silvery outline. A new moon, Zhao Wei talked to himself while looking at the starry skies. He could spot the beautiful hues of galaxies moving in a continuous chain across the night sky. I am intergalactic. Even in the middle of the night, there were a few youths still training, and there were some that just couldn't sleep or were rather insomniac. Just then, a loud voice sounded all over the Sky Guards battalion. Lord Guan Jan has finished his seclusion and has decreed that the 10 Sky Guards will meet with him tomorrow. Tomorrow, in the afternoon, meet me at the front of my building as soon as possible. Those who were deep in sleep or meditation heard the voice clearly, and they couldn't keep their calm just like everyone else. What? Lord Guan Jan has finished his seclusion. What does this mean? It means we would have a chance of being Lord Guan Jan's disciples. I won't waste this chance. Fuck, I was hella sleepy, but with the coming of Lord Guan Jan, I think I won't be sleeping anytime soon. Why did third guard have to report the matter in the middle of the night? Do you think he would care about your opinion? This night, the 10 sky guards except for the top 5 will realize that peace was never an option. I have been saving and hiding my strength just for this day. Saving strength? Ah ha ha ha. Don't make me laugh. Do you think you are the protagonist of a story or something? Let him cook. He's the hidden villain. Haha. Pathetic trash, all of you. It would be a night of blood and bones breaking. In a matter of seconds after third guard had conveyed the message, numerous youths began to flock to the field near the 10 wooden rooms. They engaged in animated conversations while secretly waiting for someone to make the first move. Hey, isn't that Zhao Wei? A youth murmured to his friend. Where? There. The youth subtly directed his eyes to the lone figure outside room 5. Do you want to challenge him? I think the odds of you surviving are high. The friend flashed him a foxy grin. I rather deal with the devil than him. I ain't that stupid. But with hope can't one overcome any type of hurdles, including the gargantuan one known as Zhao Wei. His friend smiled as he spouted bull crap. What did you eat today, bro? Why don't you go and face him with your illusion of hope, haha. To be humiliated? No, I love my face. Didn't you see how he trampled an 8th rank genius? Sigh, we are truly weak losers. No, we aren't weak. We are strong. It's just that there will always be those stronger than us. The world operates under such rules. Stand proud. Zhao Wei just happened to hear their conversations with his superior hearing, and a weird expression formed on his face. His brows winged up in surprise. What's with those background characters and their conversation? I understand that reference. Those two are in the wrong universe, but whatever. Zhao Wei shrugged as he observed the first brave challenger contend against an unlucky 10th Sky Guard. A fight broke out and the guy ranked 10th got yeeted from his lofty position. The cycle of victory and defeat continued as new contenders rose and fell with ease, and those who could protect their positions like Zhao Yufei received fewer confrontations. Everyone wanted to be Lord Guan Jan's disciple, since it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance that they felt they would regret if they missed it. Cultivation was also about competition. Without being competitive for resources, you will only be drowned by the monsters who thirst for improvement and better treatment. Just like that, the night ended and there were a few changes in the positions, but Zhao Wei only chose to remember Zhao Wei. The others weren't worth his time. Before noon, the 10 Sky Guards began walking towards the meeting point. Some perfectly hid their excitement while some struggled, since they were ultimately going to meet the legend of Cloud Country. Feng Hanyu, do you think you can defeat Zhao Wei? Lei Kong casually asked Feng Hanyu. Feng Hanyu frowned after hearing Lei Kong's question before his face returned to normal. He then said with a straight face. Nah, I'd win. Everyone including Zhao Wei turned their heads to look at him with their mouths opened in visible shock. Even the nearby raven almost fell down from the sky. Feng Hanyu felt immediately embarrassed, and it was further intensified by Lei Kong's annoying laughter. Chapter 87, A Pitiful Man. You are all here. Third guard availed himself and subtly gazed at the group of exceptional 10 youths. Follow me then. He was a man of a few words, and he immediately began to walk away. The 10 Sky Guards began to follow him in earnest. Most of the youths couldn't contain the excitement bubbling inside them as seen by the radiant smiles on their faces. The opportunity that they had been handed was a one-way ticket to greatness. Zhao Yufei also looked forward to the occasion that involved the heavily lauded figure of Cloud Country. She was mostly after the promise of greater resources and better techniques than what she currently possessed. Zhao Yufei had already begun to realize something about herself. With each passing day, her cultivation speed seemed to be amplified little by little. She couldn't really understand it herself, but she had an inkling that her body was somehow special, or maybe she was just mistaken. Anyway, it was definitely a good thing, and what she needed the most to make use of her growing cultivation speed were consumable resources. As she walked, Zhao Yufei wondered what Zhao Wei was feeling about meeting Lord Guan Jan. Everyone was excited about it. Could he be an exception? As she gracefully walked, Zhao Yufei tried to sneak a glance at the young man she had been interested in ever since Sun Feather City. Typical of him. Zhao Yufei clicked her tongue before chuckling internally. Zhao Wei felt someone look at him. It was a familiar gaze that he had come to imprint in his senses, and even without looking, he knew who it was. Zhao Wei had a normal expression on his face. He showed neither happiness nor sadness. Zhao Wei then slightly turned his head to give the sneaky lady a side glance. But guess what? Zhao Wei's eyes were met by a middle finger and a goofy smile from Zhao Yufei before she ignored him. Zhao Wei. He was simply rendered speechless. Did I just get bamboozled by Yufei? Zhao Wei had a faint one-sided smile lingering on his lips as he continued walking. Soon, third guard led them to an ancient building. It was the spiritual martial hall, Lord Guan Jan's cultivation residence. Some youths looked at the building in anticipation and curiosity. They wondered why it looked very different from all the buildings they had passed. Of course, the way the hall looked gave them the feeling that it belonged to someone very important and powerful like Lord Guan Jan. This is the spiritual martial hall. Your destiny will be decided once inside. Third guard began to speak in a low voice as he gazed at the 10 youths. 1 or 2 of you might be taken in as Lord Guan Jan's disciple depending on your luck. Those were probably his last words of consolation to the group. Master, I have brought them. Third guard spoke loudly, his voice echoing in the spacious hall despite the huge silver doors being closed. Come in. After a few seconds, a clear, powerful voice sounded behind the doors. The masculine voice made some of the youths feel pressured. To add more dramatic effect, the huge doors slowly opened up by themselves and a small gust of wind made its way inside. The whistle of the wind made it even more impactful. Are we by chance entering Count Dracula's lair? Zhao Wei mildly thought. But something is missing. It's definitely the theme song that's missing. Tap tap tap. With third guard leading the way, the others followed suit, their feet making numerous audible footsteps like a legion of Spartans. The youths couldn't help but study the interior design of the hall as they walked, only to realize that it was bland. There were no drawings or anything along those lines. The walls were truly dull. Zhao Wei thought that they, maybe, mirrored Lord Guan Jan's inner self. So what type of man was he? Zhao Wei already had a general understanding of the man from a reader's perspective. He only had one word to describe him and it was pitiful. Yet, Zhao Wei found Lord Guan Jan unlucky, pitiful, slightly naive, and a little bit optimistic. His woman got stolen and later on, his super genius disciple Bei Moi also got poached right under his nose due to his powerlessness. It was understandable due to the massive differences between him and his long-term mortal enemy, Hai Yun. Hai Yun was another piece of dog shit that Zhao Wei quite disliked since he was so petty. Why did he have to scar our boy Lord Guan Jan till he began searching for super geniuses to carry on his revenge? Zhao Wei found it illogical to even try to carry on the man's hatred and thirst for revenge. How the hell did it concern him? How the hell would he waste his time to shoulder the inadequacy of someone else's sorry ass? The world he was in was a cruel one, and if one couldn't use others for their own benefit, then one should just be prepared to be used. Zhao Wei preferred being the latter. Karma be damned, he was a bastard that gave 0f***ck's to filial piety. To him, Lord Guan Jan, or better Su Ran, was just a means for him to climb the ladder. Third guard's eyes widened slightly when he saw that Ye Lingyan, or rather brother Ye, was already there with Master together with Bei Moi and Nan Gungen. Master. Third guard bowed to Lord Guan Jan, who sat on a futon at the center while his 3 disciples sat around him. Lord Guan Jan nodded at him and third guard immediately sat near Ye Lingyan. He then gestured to the 10 youths to sit on the already prepared futons according to their appropriate positions. What's up, brother Ye? Third guard greeted the handsome young man whose age was between 20 and 30. I am good. I see that you have quite the promising bunch. Ye Lingyan whispered. Third guard revealed a proud smile as he eyed the 10 sky guard and remained quiet. Lord Guan Jan silently studied the 10 sky guards from the 10th position. His ocean blue eyes shone brighter as he assessed the energies of each individual. When he reached Zhao Yufei, he stopped for once before slightly nodding his head. When he reached Zhao Wei, Lord Guan Jan's expressionless face finally changed into one of surprise. So this is the young man that trampled on both Bei Moi and Nan Gungen. What a perfect body suited for body cultivation, but his potential. After Lord Guan Jan finished observing the 10 sky guards, he offered his final verdict, albeit one filled with slight disappointment. There are extremely good seedlings, but... Lord Guan Jan said slowly and paused. A large portion of the sky guards was filled with apprehension at Lord Guan Jan's words. Even third guard and Ye Lingyan were left on edge. As for Bei Moi, his eyes never left Zhao Wei ever since he entered the spiritual martial hall. How could he not be conscious of him? I think it would be meaningful if I tested their aptitudes for more clarity. Lord Guan Jan finally finished his words, which made everyone release breaths of relief. Here comes the man obsessed with potential. A shadow of a sly grin showed on Zhao Wei's lips. Chapter 88, Crystal ball. Lord Guan Jan took out something from under his sleeve and upon inspection, the 10 sky guards noticed that it was a visually appealing transparent crystal ball that glittered under the reflections of light in the room. There was just something awe-inspiring about it and the youths began to wonder what it was. Beimoy and Nan Gongfen were already aware of the crystal ball, but even so, they didn't truly understand the mechanisms behind its uniqueness. Beimoy treated it as something that created distinctions among different layers of geniuses. It was something that amplified his ego and showed how he was different from the rest. That was the cruel reality that his fellow disciple, Nan Gongfen, had to face. Nan Gongfen also knew too well that the crystal ball was the ultimate crusher of a superiority mindset and someone's initial worldview. It was a complete game changer. This crystalline ball you are currently curious about is the potential measuring artifact, Lord Guan Jan explained nonchalantly after seeing how the young ones looked at it. This is something unique, and just from its name, you can already guess that excels in measuring the future potentiality and innate talent of each individual to a 99.99% degree. Even though it only offers estimates about someone's potential, you can be reassured about its credibility. What? It can measure their future potential, like how far they can advance in cultivation. All the youths in the room except Zhao Wei had their eyes widening in amazement after hearing such an inconceivable concept from Lord Guan Jan. Zhao Wei couldn't really blame them, as he was also interested in that so-called potential measuring artifact, but for a different reason. He was more curious about the materials used to make such an incredible artifact. They probably had to be heaven-defying or something along those lines. He used his supervision to dig deeper into the material composition, you know, the usual chemistry, but... what? Just ordinary crystals. Zhao Wei chuckled in his mind after a quick analysis from afar. What a disappointment! But the fact still remains that the crystal ball isn't as simple as it seems. Maybe it operates under some kind of laws or concepts that a mortal like me won't ever hope to discover. Or maybe it's a fragment of... The questions will never end if I continue thinking about it. This is interesting. A momentary glint of passion and curiosity shone in his moon-like eyes. Zhao Wei once again was reminded of the unknown's XS and YS the infinite universe had to offer, and he was just a slightly knowledgeable toddler in it. Little Bei, guide them so that we see the quality of this time sky guards, Lord Guan Jan smiled at Beimoy as he handed him the crystal ball. Nan Gongfen was about to let one out, but he stifled it back after his master gave him a warning gaze. Zhao Wei swore he had that Leonardo DiCaprio mime signature, and it kind of amused him. Beimoy, on the other hand, had a sour expression on his face only because Lord Guan Jan would refer to him as Little Bei at random times. He didn't like it, but since he was the youngest among his disciples, Beimoy had forced himself to get used to it and swallow the discontent. Beimoy couldn't really hold it against his master. What pissed him off was the reaction from his fellow disciples, especially Nan Gongfen. Beimoy chose to ignore Nan Gongfen's low-key jab at him. Beimoy treated it as just the buzz of a fly. He then went and presented the potential measuring artifact to Feng Hanyu. Feng Hanyu was nervous at first, but since he was good at controlling his emotions, he finally calmly held the crystal ball without shivering unnecessarily. Beimoy noticed how Feng Hanyu kept his cool and wordlessly nodded. Now try to channel both your consciousness and inner strength into the crystal ball, Beimoy sternly instructed. Feng Hanyu nodded while inhaling deeply before exhaling in relaxation. Now we have Beimoy, the fortune teller. Now what future would the crystal ball reveal? Zhao Wei thought in delight. Wang. Just as in the novel, Feng Hanyu lit up 5 circles in the crystal ball, meaning his potential had exceeded the mortal body, meaning, he wouldn't be confined by the limits of the consolidated realm, and the ascended realm wouldn't be a problem for the future him. Lord Guan Jan indirectly called him trash even though he didn't utter any derogatory terms from his mouth. Lei Kong took the crystal ball, and upon following the procedure, Lord Guan Jan gave him a less than average evaluation. Lei Kong was even trashier than Feng Hanyu as he lit up only 4 circles. That was the cold reality that cultivators had to face. There were no words to sugarcoat what is considered trash. Lord Guan Jan had strict requirements for one to be his core disciple, so it was understandable. But Zhao Wei knew from his reading experience that choosing a core disciple or legacy disciple wasn't solely based on potential alone. There were just many aspects of a character that needed to be examined to take someone that you would treat like family under your tutelage. How is their Dao heart? Are they loyal, or are they just backstabbing scumbags? What are their philosophical views? What are their goals, and how far do their ambitions reach? Also, the eccentricity of the master could determine what type of disciple they want, Zhao Wei calmly thought. Fairy Xi Xian took in Hanju since he was a shut-in cultivator, which was pretty consistent with his seclusion, more like cowardice, hehe. Grandmaster Pill Demon also had his own criteria that the 9th generation demon sealer had to meet before undergoing the discipleship ceremony. Hey, you dropped your balls. Beimoy suppressed his snicker as he gave the crystal ball to the absent-minded Zhao Wei. Ha, I didn't know that you are also funny, little Bei. Zhao Wei wore his trademark troublemaker grin as he emotionally pinched Beimoy where it hurt the most. Zhao Yufei turned her hilarious smile away from the two males. She was holding herself really well from relieving her lungs from bursting forth. Lord Guan Jan witnessed the interaction between the two and couldn't help but be surprised by Beimoy's reaction towards Zhao Wei. His usual cold disciple could also make friends. But he was most interested in, was the potential lying within that divine body of Zhao Wei. What kind of surprising results was he going to give him, as both Ye Lingyun and Third Guard equally praised him as a monster? Hey? Meanwhile, Zhao Wei uninterestedly gazed at the crystal ball. Why deceive yourself with a flawed glimpse of the future, dear? Illusions are the only things awaiting you. One bright circle formed on the crystal ball. A second followed next at a constant speed. Then. Chapter 89, Yes, I do. Unarmed Immortal's Enlightenment. I was in a time-accelerated domain, experiencing the profundities of reality, and I was forced to put off my writing a little bit, but now that I have finished my fruitful seclusion, I feel that I could create whatever I want. This immortal's lifespan was in no way near its end since I am this close at grasping the secrets of eternal life. I no longer need lifespan goo. It's good to be back at literary heaven. As someone who had scouted both Zhao Wei and Zhao Yufei back at the Zhao clan, specifically the Zhao clan, Ye Lingyun was the most curious of all about the rising star that devastatingly overpowered Beimoy. Ever since he had brought the two into the Sky Guards battalion, Ye Lingyun had shifted his attention to his own matters, and it had only been recently that Third Guard passed on some hot news to him. Ye Lingyun had been astonished at first, unbelieving of the fact that a super genius like Beimoy could be defeated by someone in the Sky Guards battalion. And to add salt to injury, he was defeated by someone weaker than him in terms of cultivation by a whole realm. Zhao Wei was the name of the usurper of the super genius title. Ye Lingyun wondered what kind of talent Zhao Wei was going to show to the world. Could his potential surpass Beimoy's? Ye Lingyun wasn't alone in this speculation. Lord Guan Jan, Third Guard, and Beimoy himself were the most curious of all. Knowing him, the bastard might try to show off or mess around when he is the center of attention. Zhao Yufei was already proud of herself for being capable of predicting Zhao Wei's antics. Anyway, if his talent isn't the most ridiculous thing in existence, then I will be damned. Zhao Yufei gave the crystal ball a mirthful gaze. Zhao Wei looked at the three circles that had already formed on the crystal ball in concentration. If there was something he had taught himself well, then it had to be anything to do with control. He was adept at controlling his inner strength and body. To control his potential, an aspect of himself seemed almost impossible, but Zhao Wei could do it if he put his mind to it. As far as he was concerned, the myriad constellation physique had already rewritten his initial talent that was probably within the limits of a mortal to something immeasurable. It was the feeling he had gotten after being reborn. Zhao Wei compared it to the effect of the essence of blank, but geared towards innate talent and cultivation progression instead of mastery over different disciplines. After being bestowed with such a perk, it was inevitable that he could control what others saw from him. Zhao Feng's talent had evolved as a result of the ancestral Eye of Dreams' gradual boost. Well, it was more like the God Eye itself was his sole talent. But the fact still remained that Zhao Feng could also alter his own results shown on a talent measuring artifact. Anyway, Zhao Wei didn't need to show that he was the only living being with the most potential or try to prove that he was better. He planned to show something that was within the limits of acceptance, something that didn't deviate from the norm. He was a meticulous person, and there was no way he was going to shatter the artifact due to an inflated ego or portray himself as an underdog. Under his deliberate control, the fourth circle formed weakly, giving those spectating a horrible scare. How can his talent be so weak? They probably asked themselves such a question. Zhao Wei showed extreme disappointment on his handsome face after seeing how his talent was lingering in the mortal limit. He was the show's man and he had his part to play. A ruse. The Dao of subterfuge had to be put to fruition. The play was his to manipulate. Zhao Wei found amusement in the different reactions that those in the room displayed. Then, as if Lady Luck was smiling upon Zhao Wei, the weak fourth circle gave out distracting lights before the fifth circle was filled to the brim. The fifth circle. What had just happened? Feng Hanyu was surprised and didn't believe for once that Zhao Wei had the same level of talent as him. He expected more. Lord Guan Jan carefully studied the crystal ball's reaction in surprise while looking at Zhao Wei. A certain thought passed through his mind before he sighed in disappointment. Bei Moi also found the result unbelievable. Just as he was about to take the crystal ball from Zhao Wei's hands, the sixth circle lit up almost immediately. Lord Guan Jan rose from his futon and looked at how the situation was unfolding in bewilderment. It can't be a true changeable body. Lord Guan Jan started having doubts of his own about Zhao Wei's true talent. He didn't want to believe whatever was unfolding in front of him as a true changeable body had a 1 in a million chance of manifesting in an individual. The probability of someone having a true changeable body was extremely low. It was simply that rare in the vast universe. Apart from Lord Guan Jan, all the others in the room weren't privy to that knowledge. They were only captivated by the peculiarity of Zhao Wei's talent. Bei Moi withdrew his hand and continued watching with rapt attention. Deep inside, he believed that someone capable of shattering his pride and subverting his worldview would probably have a talent that was superior to his. Zhao Wei was younger than him by about 2 years, mind you. Bei Moi wished Zhao Wei to be more than just skill, or else he was going to surpass him and make Zhao Wei relieve what he had put him through. You know, the usual tit for tat. He didn't hold it against him, as there was already a saying that states, anything that goes around, comes around. Meanwhile, Zhao Wei had a face of confusion as the light hovered between the 6th circle and 7th circle as if once again undecided. Sheath. The 7th circle finally lit up. Wah! Thump! Everyone's heart shook in anticipatory excitement. Just as everyone was thinking that it was the end, Zhao Wei laughed in his mind and gave them another scare. 8 circles. After a full minute, nothing changed, and this allowed the audience to take a breather. And that was his cue to leave things at that, and Zhao Wei decided to put an end to his little performance. Zhao Wei gave a dejected smile after a full minute of looking at the crystal ball with much expectation for more. Brother Bei, it seems this is my limit. I didn't know that I had such little talent. I have disappointed everyone. Zhao Wei spoke with great sadness in his voice as he returned the crystal ball to frozen Bei Moi. Bei Moi was like a program that had stopped responding and was awaiting a crash report to be formulated. Your father. Your whole family. Your whole extended ancestry is untalented. Who do you think you are? If you are untalented, then I am just the lowest piece of trash to ever exist. F***ck. Lord Guan Jan couldn't retain his calm and almost lost his footing due to Zhao Wei's utter nonsense. This core disciple of his was utterly brutal. Yes, from that moment on, Zhao Wei had already become his core disciple despite his troublemaking tendency. A bright, genuine smile formed on his lips as he witnessed the emergence of another Bei Moi, but better. Lord Guan Jan could already foresee the completion of his ardent wish. Zhao Wei, do you accept me as your master? Lord Guan Jan rushed toward Zhao Wei and gleefully stood in front of him. Everyone couldn't believe how things were proceeding so fast without a break. Here goes nothing. Zhao Wei's eyes twinkled before he bowed elegantly. Yes, I do. He internally cringed at his own words. It felt so wrong in so many different languages. Chapter 90, Frustration. There was nothing more satisfying than the feeling of seeing yourself nearing the finish line of your dreams. Lord Guan Jan saw his wishes being actualized just by looking at the unusually remarkable youth. He saw immense potential in Zhao Wei even more than when he had first tested Bei Moi. He valued both of them as they were akin to millennial geniuses, but they would always be a matter of inclination if a choice was given. Lord Guan Jan didn't want to reach such a point. He didn't want to exercise favoritism. Through both Zhao Wei and Bei Moi, Lord Guan Jan saw hope, since the two, apparently, shared the same level of talent. But it was already quite evident that Zhao Wei was unanimously superior, combat-wise. There is no need for such excessive formalities between us from now on, Zhao Wei. Stand up. Lord Guan Jan smiled as he motioned for Zhao Wei to raise his head. Teacher. Zhao Wei showed a toothy smile in response. There goes my initial haughtiness toward taking someone as my teacher. I have become more devious and accommodating toward changes. Zhao Wei engaged in introspection about himself and his growing adaptability. Those that have a hunger towards knowledge shouldn't be stiff and embrace dynamicism. After Zhao Wei was taken in as Lord Guan Jan's second core disciple under the envious eyes of others, he was given a seat at the high table. His status was no longer the same as before, with his future progress shining brighter than ever. That was how the both remaining 9 sky guards and Lord Guan Jan's outer disciples envisioned Zhao Wei. Undoubtedly, he was secretly the object of admiration to some. Bei Moi just felt grumpy and more competitive. His space was being invaded and just like a kid, he wanted more attention to lean toward himself. Zhao Wei was justifiably stealing his spotlight and would eventually overshadow him in Master's heart. Bei Moi clenched his hand and after a second of thinking carefully, he discarded all that jealousy nonsense from his system. It was only then that he coolly unclenched his hand. If I became obsessed with such worthless feelings like a kid, I might as well be just playing deep into what he wants to see. Bei Moi kept himself at sub-zero and it was just then he caught a glimpse of a faint playful smile on Zhao Wei's face. What an unsavory bastard! Bei Moi gestured a sneaky effing finger to send his own message to the new golden child. Zhao Wei arched his brows in response before totally ignoring him. Bei Moi felt the sting but swallowed his frustration down his gut after failing to elicit any noteworthy reaction from Zhao Wei. Meanwhile, the potential measuring occasion continued and it was Zhao Yufi's turn. She was the only being exhibiting feminine energy in the room, the only talented woman among the 10 sky guards. As a transmigrator, Zhao Wei found the issue too damn noticeable. Disturbingly so. Women in power were in the minority in most cultivation verses. Even if the woman was extremely powerful, for example, if she was the Celestial Empress, she would always be surpassed if she wasn't the main character and would fall prey to the protagonist's unlimited charm. That was the sad fate of female cultivators. It was the norm and it wasn't damned surprising to Zhao Wei. Women weren't equal to men and it wasn't going to change anytime soon from the perspective of such a misogynistic society. But to Zhao Wei, all living beings were equal before him and had the potential to overcome their predetermined fates. As Johann Lyrebert once again, all living beings were equal in death. His spear couldn't distinguish between women and men. It pierced everything, all of creation. Anyway, Zhao Wei couldn't wait to see what kind of surprises the young maiden who was somehow besotted with him would show the world. He wanted to see her new convictions come to fruition. Weirdly, he considered her a friend and his closest person to some degree. The mere thought of that made him frown, but truthfully, Zhao Wei felt that it wasn't that bad. If there was something that Zhao Yufi had helped in his existence was making him less cold and making him feel that there was more to life than just chasing after lofty goals beyond heaven and earth. A journey was made enjoyable by far too many factors. Emotional severance was a one-way ticket to a forever dull life and that was a route that didn't conform to his new ideals. Fang Yuan had his own outlook, Li Qiye had his and he, Zhao Wei, also had his. It was just a matter of difference in individuality that shaped a person's perspective. Meanwhile, Zhao Yufi looked at the crystal ball in rapt attention. So this is the thing that would determine my own talent compared to Zhao Wei's. What would happen if I lag behind him? Wouldn't he just discard me if I have inferior potential? Please don't be a bad talent. Please don't be a bad talent. I don't want Wei to abandon me. No, I have to be better. I am Zhao Yufi, the woman who promised herself to conquer her own future. Zhao Yufi steeled her determination and smiled beautifully. Her smile was calm and indescribably attractive. It was a smile that could turn winter into summer. While in deep concentration, she put her mind and inner strength into the oh-so-mysterious crystal ball. Everyone in the room was first greeted by a blinding light before it died down. This was a phenomenon that had never happened before in Lord Guan Jan's experience and it made him closely examine the only beautiful flower in the room. The circle of light in the crystal ball started off weak before the first circle fully formed. The people in the room watched in awe as the number of circles increased in the same way. It was as if her innate talent was subject to an unknown rule. She easily passed the 5th mark and only stopped between the 6th and 7th circle, which was better than Feng Hanyu's result. Middle to top tier spiritual body. Not bad. Lord Guan Jan commented. Without further ado, I will just take you as my outer disciple. Both Ye Lingyun and Third Guard were extremely surprised by the Lord's decisions considering that he rarely took in even outer disciples. Ye Lingyun even wondered what type of monsters he had picked from Sun Feather City. But after seeing Zhao Yufi's raw talent, there was no further discussion needed. While everyone was taken aback and excited over Zhao Yufi's potential, the same couldn't be applied to herself as she listlessly dug her nails into her palm. She was at the risk of puncturing her palm. No. 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 Zhao Yufi cut her palm skin with her nails to cope with her frustration. Fate was to blame for wanting to ruin her chance with Zhao Wei. That audacity of that bitch named Fate for wanting to take control of her mind. I am being shitty now. I am not supposed to be stopped by a mere crystal ball, right? Zhao Yufei exhaled lightly and relaxed her hands while making sure to hide her blood. She had to be stable. That's gonna leave a scar or not? Zhao Yufei wore a forced smile. Beimoi, after taking the crystal ball off her hands, wondered what was wrong with her. Shouldn't be happy for being taken in as a disciple by the master? Wasn't that more than she could ever wish for? Why look so disappointed? Beimoi couldn't understand her. No one could understand her better than herself. She's frustrated. Zhao Wei was the only one at the moment who understood her. But he was unaware of her hidden change, a completely hidden side of Zhao Yufei. Chapter 91, Perspective. Apart from Feng Hanyu and Zhao Yufei, who had shown truly exceptional results, Lord Guan Jan didn't find anything worth noting about the other youngsters. They didn't have what he was looking for. They lacked what it takes to be his disciples. Many in the room had faces of disappointment for not being chosen. Their dreams shattered before their eyes. It was truly disheartening. Each one of them had envisioned themselves being chosen, as they were pretty much confident in their talents. But alas, reality liked to one-up everyone's expectations. Not everyone could be talented, and specific limitations existed for a reason. Only the heaven-favored, lucky, or truly tenacious individuals could break such limitations. Luck was a very important aspect of life. Even though hard work and talent could lead to success, the driving factor of most successful outcomes was ultimately luck. Zhao Wei understood this himself. He wasn't exempted from such a rule. He was lucky. It wasn't bad to be lucky, but you can't always depend on it. Luck couldn't be controlled unless one had access to heaven-defying means capable of influencing probability. Feng Hanyu, normally, I wouldn't have chosen you, but since my mood has been elevated by the talents of this year's Sky Guards, I think it won't be bad if I take in an additional outer disciple. Lord Guan Jan called out to Feng Hanyu, who was restraining his excitement from exploding. Feng Hanyu hurriedly knelt before Lord Guan Jan. I greet the master. Lord Guan Jan beckoned him to rise. Good. Then, Lord Guan Jan continued to look at the remaining unchosen with slight pity. Their disappointment, unresigned expressions, all of it mirrored the face of his past self when he had thought he was on top of the world. When he was just a mere youth with hopes and dreams of greatness. It was during his youth that he also came to realize his own limitations and how powerless one could be in the face of an enviable talent. His past still filled him with regrets and longings. For those who have failed to be chosen by me, do you want to know the reason? Lord Guan Jan said in a serious tone as his gaze swept through everyone. What I am about to say may apply to all of you. He added. Everyone listened carefully to what Lord Guan Jan had to say. What is potential? It is the determinant of how far you might reach in your respective cultivation journeys. It is your future. The room was totally silent as everyone began to think about Lord Guan Jan's words, with each one of them coming to his or her own conclusion. Zhao Wei listened, but he was by no means puzzled by Lord Guan Jan's words. Through his higher computational abilities, he could already anticipate the trajectory of Lord Guan Jan's words. Your current achievements against your peers don't attract me as much as your cultivation progression. Cultivation is a ladder, and for one to improve their strengths, they are forced to climb the said ladder, consistently. Lord Guan Jan's symbolic speech stuck in everyone's head, and they instinctively tried to decipher the inner meaning. Some understood while some found it hard. The ladder is so long that even I, Lord Guan Jan, don't know about its full extent. Martial learner, martial artist, and martial master are just the tip of the iceberg. These three realms are all about fortifying one's foundation and tempering one's physique to meet the conditions necessary for what you all know as the Holy Path. Lord Guan Jan shared this important piece of information, and it seems he was steadily approaching the climax. I value your future more than your present, and that signifies that you have the chance of climbing higher on the ladder without stagnating or falling off. His momentous words finally ended. Lord Guan Jan looked at the changing expressions in the faces of those in the room, but one particular person caught his attention. He was expressionless, more like dying from boredom if one concentrated on him. Lord Guan Jan felt wronged somehow by his new core disciple. What? Am I that boring? Zhao Wei, what is it? It seems you have something important bugging your mind. Lord Guan Jan decided to ask. He wanted to know what was inside his mind. This disciple of his was quite eccentric, more than even an old coot. Zhao Wei raised his brows before supporting his cheek with his left-fisted hand. He then squarely gazed at his supposed master. His demeanor quickly shifted into one of astuteness. Future? I think cultivation isn't all about the future and potential as you like to call it. Everyone in the room was astonished at Zhao Wei's straightforwardness and courage. Zhao Yufei cast away all her initial worries when she sensed that bastard's incoming sagely nonsense. She slightly smiled at whatever facts he was going to cook. That was the troublemaker she had always known. There was no way he was going to change because of the sudden elevation in his status, Zhao Yufei thought. She still wanted to stand by his side and surpass him, literally. Her crystal eyes shimmered slightly as she stared at Zhao Wei. And what's your opinion? I want to hear about it. Lord Guan Jan narrowed his gaze at Zhao Wei as a small smile made its way across his lips. I wonder what he has to say. Is he going to present a baseless different opinion? Ah, youth, Lord Guan Jan mildly thought. What is the future? Zhao Wei calmly asked Lord Guan Jan. It is something that has yet to come, Lord Guan Jan replied, unbothered by such a simple question. Something that has yet to come, right? If what you are looking at is only the future, a mere possibility, then, you are sorely mistaken, Zhao Wei said slowly. And how am I wrong? Lord Guan Jan curiously asked. You are not wrong, but it is just a difference in our perspectives. The future isn't the ultimate determinant of one's cultivation journey. There are simply many factors at play. Luck, time, opportunities, life, and death, these are some factors that determine an individual's path. I value potential and its guaranteed effect as much as you, since it means that I would advance faster in cultivation than some of my peers. But what if the future that only awaits the genius full of potential is death? What does that mean? It's unpredictable. The future is never set in stone, and potential is just a means of present evaluation. The past, present, and the future are interconnected, and I believe they mold an individual into something much more. With each decision that we make, we create different possibilities in our future. Zhao Wei took his sweet time to explain his thoughts. That was him exercising what it felt to be free. Freedom of expressing your views without any hindrance. It wasn't a matter of asserting his opinions on others. His words were entirely subjective, woven from a web of various experiences, from both his past life and present one. Lastly, Zhao Wei slowly looked at the gaping mouths of everyone in the room before he settled on his master. Lord Guan Jan watched him in slight disbelief, amusement, and thoughtfulness. Master Zhao Wei didn't get to finish his words before he suddenly whipped his head toward a certain direction. The door. Lord Guan Jan also did the same before his expression turned to anger. Ah, my dear future, why have you decided to mess with me? Zhao Wei closed his eyes momentarily with utter calmness, unbothered by the storm approaching the spiritual martial hall. Chapter 92, Ignorable Trash. Who are you? Where do you think you are trespassing? You are just courting death. I will send your dead thick ass back to whatever shithole you came from. Outside the spiritual martial hall, two guards appeared out of nowhere and blocked the way of the unknown casual trespasser. Someone had the audacity of trying to mess around in Lord Guan Jan's territory. The person who had such audacity was an average-looking young man of about 27 years of age. The unknown trespasser showed a one-sided smug grin as he gazed at the majestic silver door. He obviously didn't put the two soldiers in his eyes. Were the Guan Jan Corps worthy of his attention? No. Was Cloud Country worthy? Not even close. His current status was almost inviolable. He was of an entirely power stratum. He belonged to one of the 13 clans, and his black striped shirt and overall iconic uniform said all one needed to know about his true identity. The two men barring his path were beneath him. So why the hell were they trying to impede his majestic entrance? Get off my way! A disdainful voice escaped from the unknown man's lips. It wasn't a warning or anything of the same nature. It was an order meant for those beneath him. It was mercy. The two soldiers, who were both in the 9th rank of the Consolidated Realm, looked at each other and nodded at the same time. They were dealing with a person that couldn't be reasoned with. For Lord Guan Jan! For Lord Guan Jan! The two soldiers attacked at the same time with their long bronze spears. It was as if they shared the same mind as their attacks synchronized. Their spear art, even though it wasn't extremely refined, still radiated the cold intent of murder. That undisguised killing intent wasn't an illusion, but something they had accumulated in various battles under Lord Guan Jan's command. The teamwork between the two soldiers created pressure that limited the enemy's movement and overall maneuverability. The trespasser didn't make any signs of moving from his initial position. In fact, he looked relaxed and a cocky smile never left his face. After all, he was confident in his abilities. It stemmed from his strength. Fools! The young man said playfully and raised his right hand in what looked like a claw. A cold, silver glow, reminiscent of the moonlight, emanated from his hands. The two guards remained unfazed when they saw his actions and decided to alternate their positions to confuse the enemy. As their overwhelming, explosive thrusts attacked the intruder from both sides, the guards could already envision the expected outcome of his blood spilling. They were going all out to eviscerate him and feed him to the pigs. Around his attacking range, the two guards seemed to be moving at a snail's pace. A disconcerting smile overrode the initial cockiness on his lips as he prepared to reap the lives of those insignificant ants. With the ominous descent of the young man's hand, the images of the two crescent moons were the only things in existence that the two guards saw before their heads began rolling. Red, viscous blood sprayed all over the ground, and when the two lifeless bodies fell, a small blood pool formed. Unsurprisingly, the young man didn't get any of the blood on his clothes. They were so easy to kill. What kind of trash did Uncle Suran raise? The young man temporarily flew above the two dead, bloody messes and landed near the door. Chuan Chen! What do you think you have done, you imbecile? A loud angry voice came from the inside. It belonged to Lord Guan Jan. The young man named Chuan Chen smiled widely, and it was almost nauseating. He then cleaved the metallic door into fragmented parts before slowly walking in. I missed you, Uncle Suran. Chuan Chen greeted Lord Guan Jan with fake enthusiasm. Those who were inside instinctively looked beyond the man, and their expressions turned grave when they saw the sheer gore on the ground. Dead. 2 men of the Guan Jun Corps had been murdered in broad daylight, additionally, in the mighty presence of Lord Guan Jun. The smell of death instantly crushed the normal atmosphere that was initially there. Third guards and Ye Lingyun's hearts shattered and grieved for the loss of one of them. The emotional stab was painful and almost suffocating. Third guard clenched his fists in silent anger, but his reddening eyes conveyed what was in his mind. It was a pure urge to destroy someone and scatter all their pieces to the furthest ends of the world. He had the sudden urge to shove the spear beside him into that sick bastard's ass before roasting him alive over something like the 8 trigrams furnace. Third guard was simply mad. His unimaginable anger was hanging on the last thread. Ye Lingyun was also the same, but he couldn't control himself as he rose from his futon. You will pay for what you have done. Consider yourself a discarnate soul in advance. Just as Ye Lingyun was about to bolt towards Chuan Chen, a firm hand stopped him in place. It belonged to Lord Guan Jun. Ye Lingyun, restrain yourself. That person is of an entirely different league than you, Lord Guan Jun said to Ye Lingyun with deep sadness and anger in his voice. Let me handle this. He then gave a warning to third guard and everyone in the room not to interfere. It wasn't as if they could do anything. Anyway, everyone wondered who Chuan Chen really was, well, except for Zhao Wei. If he were asked who Chuan Chen was, he probably would have referred him to a discarded banana on the ground that you wouldn't want to ignore. Chuan Chen was inarguably one of those unlikable NPCs that get on everyone's nerves with all of their high and mighty attitudes due to their current high status. Does he think he's the Joker? Zhao Wei sized up the youth from the Broken Moon clan. He didn't care if the future got rewritten in response to his influence over the present. It was simply unavoidable, like a karmic debt, unless he exercised sovereignty over the principles of time. His current self may as well be like everyone else in the universe, they were all subjects to that primal law. Slaves, that we are. Zhao Wei thought as he watched Lord Guan Jun and Chuan Chen talk. Of course, before a fight, the two sides must engage in a little bit of conversation before killing each other. It was a typical routine in every reality, and it was that addictive. Uncle Suran, I didn't expect that you would have such good seedlings under your wing. Chuan Chen's eyes surveyed every youth inside the room, but what caught his attention were the 2 youngsters who had been sitting together with Lord Guan Jun. One looked angry at the utter disrespect being shown to his master, while the other youth looked bored. His beautiful silver eyes seemed to be silently enjoying everything, and panic couldn't be seen within them. Feeling Chuan Chen's inquisitive gaze, Zhao Wei decided to portray a Tibetan monk's tranquil state of nothingness at its best. Unshaken. Unaffected. Could he be the incarnation of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva? Well, if pretentious had a synonym, then it would be Zhao Wei himself. Chapter 93, The Red Button. Interesting. He shows promise, but is his talent as good as his annoying face, I wonder, Chuan Chen mildly thought as he momentarily appraised the eye-catching youth. From the insider information, I already know about Uncle Suran's most prized core disciple, Bei Moi, but it seems I would have to re-evaluate my decision. Maybe I should give it a try to gauge Uncle's reaction. Haha, let me see if he holds value enough for him to act up. An evil smirk formed on Chuan Chen's thin lips, and before long, he vanished from everyone's field of view. His speed didn't give anyone in the room enough time to follow his super-fast movement. They could all register the unavoidable disturbance of the atmospheric wind. Only Lord Guan Jan, who was closer in terms of realm with him, was able to follow his superb movement technique. But since Chuan Chen caught him by surprise, Lord Guan Jan couldn't react fast enough to intercept him. That was the might of a holy path martial artist, or more accurately, an ascended realm expert. So where did Chuan Chen appear next? He appeared in front of the sitting Zhao Wei. "What's your name, pretty boy?" Chuan Chen gently asked as he stared down at the indubitable youth. Zhao Wei sized up the young man who could easily slaughter everyone in the room if so he wished. He wasn't in awe of his power or status. They couldn't impress him, not many things could unless they held immense benefits to him. The annoying young man in front of him was a necessary piece for him to enter Broken Moon Clan. At most, his value would be meaningless once Zhao Wei becomes an inner disciple at Broken Moon Clan. Zhao Wei knew what type of person Chuan Chen was. He was an annoying pest. Insufferable, to say the least. "I am Zhao Wei." In utter calmness and without giving in to the pressure Chuan Chen was imposing on his immediate surroundings, Zhao Wei replied. "Zhao Wei, hey? You are certainly an eyesore, but still. I see promise in you," Chuan Chen responded with a sneer. "I am an eyesore, haha. Thank you, young master, for the compliment." Zhao Wei chuckled inwardly whilst maintaining an unreadable facial expression. "What do you think about ditching your current master and ascending to heaven in one leap, that is, taking my master as your master from now on?" Chuan Chen spilled his intentions without warning, catching everyone but the recipient, Zhao Wei, off guard. "Junior Chuan Chen, you dare poach my disciple in my presence?" Lord Guan Jan bellowed in fury that the air around him seemed to be heating up in response to his inner emotions. He was beyond infuriated. How dare he? Chuan Chen ignored Lord Guan Jan's ramblings as he turned his attention to Beimoi, who was staring daggers at him. "Isn't that a good deal, Beimoi?" Chuan Chen smiled confidently. "Who do you think you are? I will never betray my master." Beimoi retorted angrily. He denied such an outcome. "My master has already surpassed our dear Uncle Su Ran, or should I say the lofty and revered Lord Guan Jan. How laughable!" Chuan Chen laughed in disdain. "Master has already surpassed what you mortals call the holy path and is already at the true spirit realm. He is simply an inconceivable existence compared to your pitiful master." Chuan Chen's words shocked everyone. Great experts at the ascended realm were already considered legendary existences. How could they imagine that there were people capable of surpassing the so-called legendary existences? True spirit realm. Despite the bad situation that everyone was in, they took it upon themselves to imprint the new knowledge into their minds. They felt that their horizons had been expanded. Without a doubt, Chuan Chen's master had to be super powerful, like an immortal that could topple mountains and overturn heaven and earth. While everyone was awed by the new knowledge, for Lord Guan Jan, it was a different story. Chuan Chen's words were like sharp daggers meant to pierce his heart and bleed him dry. Hai Yun was already at the true spirit realm. How could he easily accept the news? But from Chuan Chen's expression, he really didn't seem to have a reason to lie. Just how? Lord Guan Jan was once again reminded of how powerless he was against Hai Yun. And all of that could be trailed down to one thing, the unmistakable difference between them, potential. The two shared a bad history, and a plum blossom was at the center of the bad blood between them. Lord Guan Jan wouldn't easily share his tasteless past even with his dear disciples. He was ultimately using them for his own selfish wishes. But even then, he, Lord Guan Jan, had to protect his disciples from being wantonly poached by that damnable Chuan Chen. "Chuan Chen, I won't allow your insolence." Lord Guan Jan spoke out righteously as he moved like a bolt. In an instant, he was already in the air above Chuan Chen as he attacked with his palm. Chuan Chen noticed him and released a maniacal laughter as he reacted with a palm attack of his own which seemed to resemble a partial moon. "Good. Uncle Su Ran, I have longed to know how much strength you possess as someone who was once master's adversary." Boom! An ear-splitting sound reverberated all over the room, and a resultant force pushed anyone that was near away like weightless paper. Zhao Wei wasn't an exception, but he had anticipated such an outcome. Even though he had his own ways to mitigate some of the force, he didn't think it was necessary for him to stand out like a sore thumb more than needed. Many questions would be asked about his unnatural resilience despite his lower realm in the grand scheme of things. He had to act like everyone who was weak in the room. Luckily, nobody was heavily injured as a result of the unresolvable altercation between the two giants. Boom! Boom! Chuan Chen and Lord Guan Jan clashed against each other and exchanged countless moves in a matter of seconds as they fought in the air using their overwhelming techniques. Boom! The whole building tumbled down in ruins, proving to be incapable of sustaining the fight between the two experts. The two seemed to be equal in power, but through his discerning eyes, Zhao Wei knew that Chuan Chen was gradually overpowering Lord Guan Jan. More so, the hateful lackey, Chuan Chen, seemed to be even holding back. Arg! A cry of pain resounded as Lord Guan Jan was finally sent flying to the ground. Lord Guan Jan managed to stabilize his footing as his feet created two trails of dug ground. A few moments later, Lord Guan Jan coughed up a mouthful of blood and his expression turned pale. He had been injured. Ye Lingyun and Third Guard immediately rushed to support him. "Master, are you all right?" Ye Lingyun asked with a worrisome expression. "Lord." Third Guard felt as if his heart was bleeding seeing Lord Guan Jan hurt, beaten up, and massively overwhelmed. Seeing the troubled expression on Lord Guan Jan's face, Third Guard felt that he was truly weak and there would always be mountains beyond mountains. Chuan Chen was the perfect example. He looked younger than him, but that hadn't prevented him from defeating Lord Guan Jan, a legendary existence in Cloud Country. Bei Moi and Zhao Wei, do you still want to remain under Uncle Su Ran's tutelage? He's even weaker than me. There is simply no future with him. Come to me, with my master, you would have everything that you want. This small place won't hold you two for long. Lord Guan Jan felt his heart breaking even more as Chuan Chen lively humiliated him. And then, he cast a complicated look toward his two outstanding core disciples. Bei Moi had a visible frown on his face as if contemplating his decision. As for Zhao Wei, he had that devious smile on his face. The red button was before him and it was so alluring, so pleasing, that he couldn't possibly ignore it. Chapter 94, tied by neither loyalty nor betrayal. The dark nimbus clouds gradually covered the already gloomy sky, signifying the onslaught of heavy rains. Thunder rumbled unrestrainedly before the inevitable befell all the living beings. The cold gale whistled in the atmosphere like an eerie lullaby, emphasizing the direness of the situation at the ruined spiritual martial hall. Bo-boom! Thunder roared out in anger once again, shaking the hearts of Lord Guan Jan Corps members, and some of the 10 Sky Guards. The fight between Chuan Chen and Lord Guan Jan was far from reaching an impasse. Lord Guan Jan had already been humiliated and utterly defeated on his own turf. The result came off as a blow to the faces of the youngsters who had always believed Lord Guan Jan to be akin to a god among men. Feng Hanyu felt a chill in his heart and doubt and fear could be seen on his effeminate face. He found Chuan Chen to be even more terrifying than the genius of impossibility, Zhao Wei. Of course, he was terrifying since his strength was no longer in the realm of mortals but that of someone closer to actualizing what it meant to be immortal. Lord Guan Jan was inarguably weaker than the youthful Chuan Chen. What kind of strength is that? I envy it. I want it but I am just, too weak. Feng Hanyu thought dejectedly, but even then, a small fire of new ambition was kindled deep inside his heart. He found the world to be truly wondrous and it didn't lack enviable geniuses, hidden dragons and soaring phoenixes that could amaze the world. Su Ran, I see you have some clotted blood still lying in your throat. Let 'em all out for your disciples to see your disgrace. Chuan Chen laughed with a mocking grin on his face. Damn! You are too cruel. Most people in the dilapidated building had sour expressions after hearing Chuan Chen's vicious words. You little! Lord Guan Jan couldn't hold it anymore as he coughed up blood in dramatic exaggeration. Black-red blood dripped from the corners of his lips afterward as both Ye Lingyun and Third Guard supported his injured body on both sides. Uncle, no, I shouldn't be calling you uncle when you are as weak as a fly. Chuan Chen continued to take jabs at both the mind and heart of Lord Guan Jan. You should call me grandpa instead. Chuan Chen. Lord Guan Jan gritted his teeth with immense hate and helplessness showing on his sickly face. I feel sad for Lord Guan Jan for being in a passive position. The psychological offense is already taking a toll on him. Zhao Wei sighed internally. He didn't feel any pity for Lord Guan Jan but instead, felt pity for his established fate, a fate of the weak. He was being played with by Hai Yun via Chuan Chen. How pathetic could it get? His life story had to follow whatever had already been written and it was unchangeable. Human beings were given free will and only those exceptional individuals with indomitable wills and extreme thirst for evolution, both physically and spiritually, could have the chance to resist the unmistakable arrangements of fate. Zhao Wei was aware of his own peculiar existence that was already in defiance of the laws and rules that were written in stone, fate. He was an anomaly. His luck had been good so far to the point of even changing the predetermined route the timeline had to take. Luck was truly a mystical concept, and if an individual ever reached the state of being able to manipulate the probabilities of existence, then, they would be basically omnipotent. He had survived till this moment, and that was attributed to how high his luck was. His knowledge of the future in addition to his own adaptable spirit placed him in a near invincible position. Your lover was taken by Master Hai Yun, Su Ran. How do you still exist as a kook? Chuan Chen continued with his onslaught of vicious words. He was openly degrading Lord Guan Jan's image and existing reputation. He didn't care about anyone's feelings since he was in a higher position than everyone. He was strong and everyone in the vicinity was weak. He could kill them all if so he wished, well, except for the golden duo. Once again the unsavory past of Lord Guan Jan saw the light, and people didn't know how to respond to it except to feel pity, hatred, and immense anger at the source of all that bullshit. I can't believe Lord Guan Jan got, sigh. Why doesn't Lord Guan Jan feel mighty and powerful in my eyes anymore? Damn, the green color is strong in this one. I can't believe Lord Guan Jan had such a pitiful past. His lover was taken and now his core disciples are about to be stolen under his nose. What sort of drama is this? That Master Hai Yun is too spiteful and vicious. I wonder what decision Zhao Wei would finally make. What will Bei Moi choose? What will Lord Guan Jan do for his own disciples? Various thoughts ran through the minds of the shaken youngsters as they watched the unfolding events. Satisfied with the session of mental torture meant for Su Ran, Chuan Chen finally turned his attention to the duo. His time was limited and he didn't want to stay any longer in this insignificant place. Brother Wei, Brother Bei, the future is in your own hands, and in my opinion, that future will be non-existent if you continue following such a powerless master, Chuan Chen said in a convincing voice. He held the initiative to tempt the two youths even more. Your foundation will be even more enhanced and reinforced if you become teacher Hai Yun's disciples. We don't lack high-quality resources and high-level techniques to cater to all your needs. You will even have the opportunity to meet other geniuses at your level or even higher. Don't you all want your potential to be stimulated? If your luck is good, you might even get the chance of being an immortal of the true spirit realm. Under teacher Hai Yun's tutelage, nothing is impossible. I, myself, am not confident in reaching my teacher's level, but, to you two, maybe it would be a different story. Chuan Chen's words were very attractive and tempting to the ears. The opportunity was irresistible to anyone. Who didn't want to grow stronger and reach unimaginable heights of strength? In this world where the strong were revered and the weak oppressed under the whims of others, who would really pass up the chance of achieving power beyond their means? Bei Moi seemed to be touched by Chuan Chen's words. He was a super genius and an outstanding warrior, there was no way he wouldn't get tempted. A chance for a better future was right in front of his face, was there a reason for him to not grasp the chance? Brother Bei, I want to hear your thoughts and decisions first. Chuan Chen gazed at Bei Moi with a somber expression. It was a crucial point. Bei Moi had a complicated expression on his face as he struggled to reach a decision. He was deeply troubled. Was it worth it to lose his master's trust? Was it worth it to betray Lord Guan Jan for the betterment of his own future? Was it right to be selfish? He was in a difficult position. On one hand, he wanted to accept Chuan Chen's attractive deal, and on the other hand, he didn't want to betray the person who had groomed him to where he currently was. Master! Bei Moi weakly called out, his internal struggle showing on his face. He no longer exuded his usual cold expression. Lord Guan Jan had a self-deprecating smile on his face as he faced his favored core disciple. Bei, you don't have to think about me and think about yourself. You will have no future with me. Haven't I disgraced myself enough? He then sighed in defeat. Master, I can't. Bei Moi wanted to reject his master's line of thought. He would feel bad if he betrayed him, but the feeling wasn't as intense as he might have thought it to be. Humph! A cold light shone in Chuan Chen's eyes, and in one step, he closed in on Bei Moi before swiftly clamping his hand on his shoulder. Bei Moi wanted to retaliate on instinct, but later on, he realized he couldn't mobilize his inner strength to attack. You! Chuan Chen then leaned closer to Bei Moi's ear and restrained him before he moved his head away. You aren't loyal to your master, right? Chuan Chen immediately struck a point which immediately made Bei Moi cease all his futile resistance. As Chuan Chen leaned back, Bei Moi stared at him in anger. It was anger at his own guilt. His ambitions proved superior. Master, I am sorry, and it seems I, Bei Moi, will have to. Bei Moi gave Lord Guan Jan one last guilty look which made his heart bleed even more. Chuan Chen relinquished his hand from Baimuo's shoulder and only spoke a few words. Think about it. Chuan Chen left him and turned his attention to the silent Zhao Wei who had been watching them closely for quite some time. Chuan Chen was once reminded that the youth wasn't as simple as he let on. He looked disturbingly calm. Almost unfazed by the situation. What about you, Brother Wei? Zhao Wei wordlessly and smoothly stood up, before looking at the gloomy skies. Heavy rains were imminent. The current weather mirrored the gloomy atmosphere in the ruined building. A drop of rain fell on his face. Zhao Wei moved his hand and touched the slight wetness on his cheek before rubbing between his thumb and index. He sighed deeply. He held no lingering emotions toward his surroundings. He felt no joy. He felt no sadness. He was just relieved that his turn had arrived. Betrayal and loyalty, twin concepts that share the same essence in an outward perspective. It seems my journey has reached another turning point. Zhao Wei then ignored everyone. He didn't care about their apprehensive faces. His decisions couldn't be influenced by vague concepts such as betrayal and loyalty. He was ultimately only loyal to himself. Lord Guan Jan had already lost his value. Zhao Wei then looked at Chuan Chen. His beautiful silver eyes held a certain ethereal feeling that anyone could be lost in. Even Chuan Chen, who was more powerful than Zhao Wei, felt intimidated. People watched the two with bated breaths. Brother Chen, when will we be leaving? Zhao Wei immediately dropped an unexpected bombshell that even shook the very heavens, immediately making them cry in anger directed toward his shameless and unprincipled attitude. Chapter 95, Little Demon. A storm brewed in the heavens as raindrops began to slowly fall in full might. Nighttime had already arrived, and the full moon that was supposed to brighten up the world with its dazzling moonlight had already been submerged by the ominous nimbus clouds. Heavenly lightning flashed from the clouds every now and then, effectively offering glimpses of the might of heaven and earth. The special flowers on the road, leading to the spiritual martial hall, bloomed happily at the gentle caresses of the rain. They swayed back and forth as if dancing to a celestial tune meant to invigorate anything related to nature. It was truly a beautiful scene which was in stark contrast with the current situation at the place where the spiritual martial hall used to be. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, the light momentarily giving a clear view of a calm-looking young man who seemed to be facing the group of individuals before him. He looked indifferent and a wild, unrestrained spirit seemed to be emanating from his very being. This vague sense of freedom, if being unhinged, subconsciously made the other people mentally feel some form of pressure. No, the people before the young man weren't enemies, they were just simple individuals, each one of them with their unique personalities. Each of them looked at Zhao Wei with shock as they couldn't believe what he had previously said without care, without stuttering. The young man had been carefree, wild, and unprincipled. He had straightforwardly and verbally betrayed Lord Guan Jan without batting an eyelid. They just couldn't believe it. Talk about being shameless. Initially, when Lord Guan Jan had chosen Zhao Wei as his second core disciple, someone to carry on his legacy, the latter had been humble and filial. Zhao Wei had shown qualities of a good disciple worth grooming right from the start, and everyone believed that he might even surpass Lord Guan Jan's expectations. Who would believe that the same guy that took his kowtow seriously and acted very gentlemanly like a righteous scholar, was a chameleon that could change its colors in an instant? It was simply the fastest act of betrayal that they had ever witnessed. Even both Lord Guan Jan and Chuan Chen had their mouths hanging wide open in unadulterated surprise at Zhao Wei's light-speed decision-making skills. What sort of decisiveness was that? Why are you all acting gobsmacked? Did I say something wrong? Zhao Wei acted dumb. What? You just betrayed your master and that is what you have to say? How much more shameless could this guy get? From whence did this little demon originate from? Ye Lingyun had an angry expression on his face, wondering what he was thinking for failing to notice the flaw in Zhao Wei's personality. He began regretting ever setting foot in Sun Feather City. He regretted being captivated by the genius of Zhao Wei's mind. Ye Lingyun felt he had truly been utterly deceived. He was the biggest sinner, Ye Lingyun blamed himself. Hehe, you made the right decision, Brother Wei. I didn't know that you were so straightforward. Chuan Chen had the brightest smile on his mouth as he laughed in pure joy. I truly like your overbearing attitude. Chuan Chen suddenly found Zhao Wei to be pleasing to the eye. He even saw himself in him, just like a mirror. Chuan Chen felt closer to Zhao Wei after analyzing his behavior and attitude. It would have been a pity if he had been forced to cripple him under the pretense of him disrespecting the entire sect, hehe. A dead or crippled genius isn't a genius, right? Chuan Chen thought as a cold killing intent briefly flashed in his eyes. What an easily pleased simple-minded lad. Zhao Wei hid his inner thoughts under the facade of an ignorant, happy smile. He was already aware of Chuan Chen's alternate course of action and the intentions of the master behind him. Geniuses that couldn't be used were threats to Master Hai Yun and had to be eliminated early on. In case Chuan Chen left someone like Zhao Wei to be accepted by the other elders or even the sect leader, Master Hai Yun would surely be dissatisfied with him and could even severely punish him. Hai Yun didn't want to see such an outcome come to fruition. Such matters Zhao Wei understood too well, both from his knowledge of the future and literary experience from reading countless cultivation novels. Be it Hai Yun or Chuan Chen, they were not his enemies. Justice? What was that? Should he stand by Lord Guan Jan's side and carry on his regrets and failures for him? Should he act according to what was in line with the word righteous? Then what about his feelings? What about his goals and ambitions? Did he, Zhao Wei, need to be selfless and sympathize with Lord Guan Jan? No, why would he need to do that? It was simply a waste of his time and served no benefit to him in the grand scheme of things. Zhao Wei looked at the eerie darkness in the heavens that truly resembled his inner heart and emotions. Zhao Yufei, who wasn't far off from the three, looked at Zhao Wei's profile with surprise on her beautiful face. Though she was aware of Zhao Wei's unpredictability, it would be a lie if she said she wasn't surprised by his actions. She even had mixed feelings about it. It was then that she remembered Zhao Wei's words when they had still been disciples of the Zhao clan. Don't simply trust anyone, even me. Remember, I don't even trust myself. Betrayal is such a blurred concept to yours truly. Zhao Wei could envision his past casual smile, the way he had deeply looked at her and said those words without blinking. She could never have predicted that the person Zhao Wei betrayed was going to be Lord Guan Jan. Was there a possibility in the future that she could still be treated the same as she was the closest person to him? The turbulence inside Zhao Yufei's heart showed on her visage as she subconsciously bit her lip in thought. Author's note. We are slowly reaching an arc where things, plot, will go faster / fast-paced and a lot of research moments as the MC learns of other paths, auxiliary. Enjoy. Chapter 96, Reign of Separation. Baimoi, I need your answer. We have wasted so much time already, Chuan Chen hurriedly spoke with impatience in his voice. Well, part of the time wasted was all on me, I guess. He then casually shrugged his shoulders, cementing the idea that he was not sorry for his prolonged indulgence. At least, he was self-aware. Baimoi began to speak but Chuan Chen stopped him with a stretched out palm. Don't think about stalling or wasting any more of my time, Brother Bei, Chuan Chen said in a low, cold voice that made Baimoi feel an imminent danger to his very existence. It seems I can no longer continue acting. This Chuan Chen might even kill me if I play hard to get. Baimoi clenched his fist in silent dissatisfaction. He was smart enough to anticipate the possibility of being crippled if Chuan Chen proved to be even more insidious. I don't like him and he's too damn powerful for the current me. This feeling of oppression, I hate it. I can only grow stronger by becoming Master Hai Yun's disciple. Once I advance in my cultivation and become an ascended being, I will ask him to spar. I hope he won't turn down his junior when that time arrives. Baimoi showed an uneasy smile on the surface before a resolute expression formed on his face. Some people looked at Baimoi with expectations, thinking he would have a sense of justice and loyalty as someone who had stayed with Lord Guanjun for long, unlike that detestable Zhao Wei. From another perspective, Zhao Wei's actions and decisions weren't wrong. It honestly didn't matter if they were right or wrong. They were just mere childish moral distinctions. Baimoi looked at his master, Lord Guanjun, who only showed a partially hopeful expression. Lord Guanjun still had little hope regarding him after witnessing Zhao Wei's straightforward act of betrayal. When Baimoi finally looked back at Chuan Chen, he had already made his decision. No, his decision had already been made ages ago in his subconscious, but he had just been uncertain and hesitant. He wasn't as decisive as Zhao Wei, but his acting skills were something worth noting from a director's perspective. It was passable, at least. I am willing to be Master Hai Yun's disciple. His words immediately shattered any trace of hope inside Lord Guanjun's heart as it bled even more from a series of emotional damage. Lord Guanjun turned even more pale as his injured body felt weaker than normal. Master, you don't have to feel sad for losing such unfilial bastards. They should all go burn in hell. Nan Gongfan gritted his teeth in restrained anger as he moved closer to both Ye Lingyun and Third Guard. Sigh, leave him be. It would be better if he's not with me. At the Broken Moon clan, he would develop faster than here. Lord Guan Jan calmed down his remaining disciples, but internally, he felt even more hurt than he let on. He had just lost 2 genius disciples in just a few minutes. All of his efforts had been ruined by Chuan Chen, no, his past enemy, Hai Yun. Lord Guan Jan felt a huge sense of extreme humiliation wash over him. Beimoi. Lord Guan Jan called out his name, having the false reality that he had misjudged his core disciple. Having watched enough of the drama currently unfolding in front of his eyes, Chuan Chen finally clapped his hands enthusiastically. He had satisfied his hobby of playing with mortals after descending from the immortal domain. Chuan Chen had such a quirk. He relished the feeling of supremacy over weaklings. That's a wise choice, Brother Bei. Your future will be limitless after becoming an inner disciple under the teacher's guidance. Chuan Chen had a toothy grin as he said those words. Su Ran, how does it feel to lose everything you have ever wanted? Chuan Chen sneered at Lord Guan Jan, who was on the verge of fainting. Lord Guan Jan could only blankly look at him without replying. There was nothing to say at this point. He felt bitter inside his mouth. Seeing him being silent, Chuan Chen clicked his tongue in annoyance for failing to evoke some sad and funny reaction from him. Beimoi, Zhao Wei, it's time to welcome a new chapter of your lives in the clan. Let's go. Chuan Chen gestured to the two to follow him. Coincidentally, both Beimoi and Zhao Wei looked at each other. Beimoi felt that Zhao Wei was even more unfathomable and unhinged in the mental aspect. The guy could betray someone in a flash without batting an eye, and he also read the overall situation faster than he could. What a terrifying dude. I should be more careful when interacting with him in the future. Beimoi noted in his heart. He was going to see more of Zhao Wei anyway. All in all, Beimoi treated Zhao Wei as a difficult rival that he would have to trample soon. As for Zhao Wei, he just looked at Beimoi since he had displayed quite an interesting act throughout. Nothing more, nothing less. He had been given a good show, why shouldn't he congratulate the lead character with his attention? As the 3 figures finally disappeared in the darkness of the night and the heavy pitter-patter of the rain, everyone's eyes lingered on the path they had taken. Only after confirming that Chuan Chen and Xiao had truly disappeared, did they release their prolonged sighs of relief that they had been withholding for quite some time. Arg! It was then that a painful moan suddenly resounded, and when people looked at the source, they found that it was Lord Guan Jan who couldn't hold it anymore and finally fainted. Immense worry could be seen on his closest disciples as they rushed to check his pulse, and only after confirming that he was only temporarily fainted, did they feel reassured that Lord Guan Jan wasn't in a dangerous health situation. As everyone was filled with worry, anger, helplessness, hate, and unwillingness, Zhao Yufei still had her eyes on the path Zhao Wei had taken. It was raining, yet no sign of dampness could be seen on her clothes or beautiful long hair. Zhao Yufei looked as immaculate as ever as she listened to the rain, listened to her own beating heart, and listened to her feelings. The rain symbolized her separation from that young man. It symbolized a new beginning for her. She was all alone, yet she didn't feel sad at Zhao Wei's eventual departure. He had prepared her. She yearned for darkness, unaware that it would soon consume her completely. She had become relentless and unyielding. She was determined to embrace the abyss known as Zhao Wei and even conquer it. She had her own road to walk on, and she had a feeling that soon their paths would cross again. Yufei, the Broken Moon clan is a dead end for your future development. Come meet me outside the city immediately. It was then that she had a voice inside her head. It was her grandfather, whom she had forgotten for quite some time. Grandpa. Zhao Yufei didn't show any change in her expression as she called to her only relative. Make haste, Yufei. Telepathic communication technique? Zhao Yufei wasn't surprised by it. She had always known about it. It was a secret of her grandfather. The cold wind blew past her face, carrying with it any lingering feelings she had for the Guanjun Palace. Under the veil of the inky night, Zhao Yufei became the 3rd disciple of Lord Guanjun to leave him in one day. How sad! A sharp glow radiated off her eyes, which were like clear pools as she left unperceived under the camouflage of the shadowy night. Chapter 97, Broken Moon Clan and Thieving Heaven? Human relationships were surely fleeting. Many things can result in an unexpected separation between a couple or even a group. Even familial love can, at times, be like the dazzling lights of a firework. Impactful and full of positivity at first, before fizzling out of existence and welcoming the descent of darkness. Permanence was a concept that was never set in stone. The human heart was truly fickle and ever-changing. When Lord Guanjun came to himself, he soon realized that he was no longer in the spiritual martial hall. Lord Guan Jan shook his head dejectedly. It wasn't even supposed to be called the spiritual martial hall since it was utterly ruined into fragmented rubbles. When he reminisced about his short but intense fight with Chuan Chen, Lord Guan Jan unconsciously clenched his hand in silent hatred before letting go. It wasn't worth it, Lord Guan Jan thought after exhaling his inner turmoil. He was simply too weak while Chuan Chen, a bastard with an unsavory personality, was stronger than him. His potential was greater than his. His comprehensive skills were better than his. Chuan Chen, a junior of his long-term rival, was just better. It was really humiliating and a slap to his face. A self-deprecating smile formed on Lord Guan Jan's weary face. He felt all along he had been a fool. Yet, truly a fool. What love for geniuses! His misguided ambitions had been shattered by 2 betrayals of his so-called hope. His core disciples had been poached right under his nose. He was powerless. The weak had no say and he could only remain indignant. In this world, one can only depend on oneself. Depending on others would only create a loop of severe disappointment. Lord Guan Jan came to a sudden realization. His thirst for revenge and pursuit of self-gratification against his mortal enemy had surely clouded his reasoning. He only concentrated on his own bigger picture, unaware that there were small pieces of the puzzle that he needed to take note of. But I can blame my own fate and lack of potential. The gap between me and Hai Yun is currently like a bottomless chasm. Lord Guan Jan felt anger, sadness, helplessness, and hatred toward his very existence, toward his fate. The world was truly unfair and in front of its mechanization, Lord Guan Jan truly felt minuscule. With an overdrawn conclusive sigh, Lord Guan Jan looked through the window and into the night. There was no light, everything was bleak. A cold glint flashed inside his eyes as a risky thought flashed in his mind for a moment. Embrace the demonic path and take full grasp of my revenge. A visible frown crossed his face before he erased such thoughts off his mind. The demonic path was a dead end and it wasn't truly worth it. It didn't align with his personality and additionally, there was a probability that even if he became a demonic master, his future would surely be one of death. He wouldn't be hunted down by the 13 clans which he could never dream of facing against. It was really stupid to even consider it. Lord Guan Jan didn't have such guts. So only one thing remained for him, and that was to swallow all of his misgivings and let go of his petty quest for revenge. He couldn't do sh*t to the current Hai Yun. Finally, Lord Guan Jan completely gave up. Yet, what else could he do? There might be a better approach to his problem, and various paths to take, but at that moment, everything didn't matter. His only choice was to give up. And with such a firm resolution, Lord Guan Jan felt as if the chains of revenge that had been tightly wrapped up around his body, began to fall. Lord Guan Jan felt that his body had become light and his mind had never felt more clear. The feeling was almost illusory and it surprised him. So this is what it means to let go and swallow a predicament. Lord Guan Jan immersed himself in that momentary feeling of freedom, of tranquility. Lord Guan Jan had humbly accepted his own fate. It was better to pursue his martial Dao and improve on it. Hai Yun was a mountain that the current him couldn't ever hope to climb, and that was the current state of reality. During that night, as Lord Guan Jan nursed his own wounds while meditating in peace and silence, he unknowingly broke through his 10-year-long bottleneck at the second sky of Ascended Realm. Fate was constant, but the existence of variables and anomalies in its intricate web would eventually lead to unforeseen events. Lord Guan Jan's fate was slightly altered, and even though it wasn't as impactful as Zhao Yufi's change since she was a major player in the fan universe, the change was still there, albeit subtle and easily ignored. Zhao Wei was unaware of this, and even if he knew, given his personality, he wouldn't care much as it didn't coincide with his goals. Zhao Wei had long ago understood that change was inevitable and constant, and variables were huge driving factors of the universe. To him, it only made things interesting. The more, the merrier. Unless he becomes an absolute and eternal existence, then not everything will always be under his control. Broken Moon Clan, Sky Moon Mountain. Dawn had already arrived when Chuan Chen, Zhao Wei, and Bei Moi arrived at the mountainous region where the prestigious clan resided. The morning sun cast its golden, almost yellow, radiance onto the Sky Moon Mountain, which was surrounded by thick white mists that clouded one's vision of the beautiful scenery beyond. At the foot of the Sky Moon Mountain, the 3 figures looked insignificant. That was the might and wonder of nature. Bei Moi looked at the entrance miles away, up the mountain, and he couldn't help but feel extreme excitement inside his heart. He was happy. "Brother Bei, you look happy." Chuan Chen smiled at Bei Moi, knowing what was inside the latter's mind. Bei Moi showed an embarrassed expression. I can't wait to meet other geniuses. Of course, he had other reasons to be happy. He really wanted to know if there were other geniuses comparable to the monster beside him. Would he find someone like Zhao Wei inside the Broken Moon clan? Baimoy had some hopes as Zhao Wei was too much of a deviant. Haha, don't worry. Soon, you will meet them. The hidden dragons and soaring phoenixes up the mountain will surely not disappoint you, Quan Chen said with confidence before casting a glance at Zhao Wei, who had been unusually silent for the entire journey. Brother Wei, aren't you excited? Zhao Wei looked to be absent-minded, but many hidden places of the Broken Moon clan were being mirrored in his mysterious pupils. His focus seemed to be on a floating palace thousands of miles high in the sky. Azure green lightning that seemed capable of incinerating even a top expert of the Ascended Realm constantly flashed and encircled the enormous, mysterious palace. It was a terrifying yet beautiful view. Is it possible to steal the whole floating crest palace? An unrealistic thought cropped up inside his crazy mind. It was then that Zhao Wei heard Quan Chen's inquisitive voice that disrupted his insane line of thought. Is he asking if I am excited? I am just amazed by the enormity of the whole place, Zhao Wei casually replied. Oh, okay. Quan Chen didn't know how to continue further as he led the two up the mountain. At the majestic entrance, the huge gate had a pristine silver plaque placed at its center, and written on it were bold and domineering letters, Broken Moon Clan. And surprisingly, those at the second sky of Ascended Realm merely served as guards. Here I am. Zhao Wei thought as he sneaked a glance at the floating crest palace. It seems the path of thieving would also be something that I might dabble in. An obscure smile lingered on his lips before disappearing in a moment. What? He was a secret fan of thieving heaven demon venerable. Spare me some slack, okay. Chapter 98, Hai Yun. Senior brother Quan Chen, you are already back. A bald youth, who looked to be in his late 20s, had a look of surprise on his browless face as he respectfully stared at Quan Chen before fixating his gaze on the two new faces. He had an intimidating spear on his right hand as he tried to scrape his mind for any information about the two young teenagers behind senior brother Quan Chen. Quan Chen had left Broken Moon Clan under the guise of a clan mission, and in just a day, he was already returning. Who were those extremely young brats? Senior brother, those two. The bald guard had just begun to talk when Quan Chen abruptly interrupted him without care. I have already completed my mission. I didn't expect it to be so easy. Quan Chen replied casually before looking at the bald guard with a cold gaze. It was a warning for the latter to stop being nosy. Just continue doing your work, Baldy, or else, you will unintentionally infringe on the interests of an elder. Quan Chen spat out his words with venom. I am just doing my work, senior brother. Aren't I supposed to be guarded against foreign faces entering the clan without permission? Even though the bald guard had such thoughts, he didn't dare to project them, or else, he would risk suffering from the displeasure of the master behind senior brother Quan Chen. With a submissive smile on his face, the bald guard apologized awkwardly. I am sorry senior brother Quan Chen, it seems that I was unnecessarily being nosy. Please forgive me. The bald youth took a submissive approach since his status was massively lower than Quan Chen's despite being somehow acquainted with him. Zhao Wei looked at the two without any change to his expression as he continued to enjoy the scenery and think about his next plans. Those two probably had their own history together. Such kind of history wouldn't even make him feel curious or anything. Within a sect system or even a legitimate clan system, people would always establish connections everywhere. Why do they call it Broken Moon Clan when it is in essence, a sect? Zhao Wei mulled over the minor but strange issue inside his mind. Maybe it was a translation error or misinterpretation by either the translation team or the author. Well, I am not sure, and it isn't like it affects anything. Zhao Wei took a second to examine the plaque on the gate before his focus shifted to something else. It didn't take long before Quan Chen led the two past the main gate before they arrived at a misty wonderland. There were countless mountain ranges, and those mountains were the sources of the mist partially covering most of the lands. Sky Moon Mountain, which they were currently on, was the tallest mountain in sight, so it was used as the main base of operation by the Broken Moon Clan. Spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Zhao Wei noted. The sudden knowledge was almost instinctive to him. It was as if he had always known what the mist was. There were small rivers with clear water flowing down the mountains. Graceful white cranes of astounding beauty flew in the sky carefreely, effortlessly flaunting their presence. The melodious songs of the Nine Tunes Golden Sparrow could be heard over the distance, and anyone who heard its symphony would feel their mind relaxing. A troop of mischievous monkeys could be seen moving from tree to tree while chattering utter gibberish to their playful companions. Zhao Wei also noticed that some smaller mountains had been modified for farming practices as seen by the perfectly created terraces. They were all sorts of spiritual plants being grown and actively being taken care of by manual laborers. It reminded him of earth and agriculture. It was truly wondrous to him. At the back of his mind, Zhao Wei promised himself to one day try mortal farming. Within the mundane lies wisdom, as he would like to say. It was honestly partly bullsh*t and partly truthful. The group of three silently walked past a few disciples who looked at them with curiosity and awe. This is the outer clan division where you will find outer disciples. The clan higher-ups usually don't concern themselves with their existence unless you are a gem capable of being polished inside the inner court. Quan Chen explained with a lackluster voice, disdain hidden deep in his words. Only by being an inner disciple can you truly enjoy the vast resources of the clan via which you will grow stronger fast. Bei Moi nodded in understanding while listening before his attention got caught by the floating palace in the sky. Senior brother Chen, what is that building in the sky? Bei Moi swallowed his pride and asked Quan Chen due to the curiosity bubbling inside of him. It gave some ancient vibes that were hard to ignore. He had an intuition that there might be something good up there. It was a genius's intuition. If there was something that cultivators were terrifyingly aware of, then it would be treasures and fortuitous encounters. Anyone with the word genius as their middle name shouldn't ever be underestimated. Zhao Wei saw the changes in Bei Moi's micro-expressions and he couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking about. From his tone when he had asked about the floating crest palace, Zhao Wei had picked up various emotions ranging from wonder, anticipation and slight excitement. That's the floating crest palace, one of the forbidden grounds of the clan. Within it lies both danger and exciting opportunities. Not just anyone can enter it. Quan Chen shared that piece of information with longing in his voice. After that, he didn't explain further as he led the two into a region with more sense of spirituality and less people. Soon, they arrived at an isolated hill that was paved with one huge path that led uphill. Atop the hill was a huge, beautifully built house that seemed to subtly shine under the gentle rays of the morning sun. Senior brother Chuan, the elder has been waiting for you. He had anticipated that you would arrive early. A guard, dressed in black and purple armor, with a long sword strapped on his waist, amiably greeted Quan Chen. There was a brief change in Quan Chen's facial expression before he calmly nodded at the guard. You two, follow me. Without looking back, Quan Chen instructed both Bei Moi and Zhao Wei to follow him inside lest they wander off. The courtyard inside was spacious and clean. There was a 5 by 5 meter pond and a well-maintained beautiful garden placed far wide in the courtyard. The invigorating scent of the translucent almost illusory kings and flowers in the garden wafted by the noses of the three individuals as they took a second to marvel at the new environment. Spiritual bees could be seen happily buzzing as they facilitated cross-pollination from one flower to another. Quan Chen was the first to escape from the piece of scenic wonder as his eyes locked on the almost inconspicuous figure of a handsome young man who seemed to be between age 20 to 30 years. He was clad in pure white robes that were speckless and bereft of any dust or pollen. His hands were placed behind his back as he deeply gazed at the small ripples on water surface of the small pond. The golden carps swimming within seemed to be unaware of his soft, absent-minded gaze. The young man was Hai Yun, the youngest elder in the Broken Moon clan and the master of Quan Chen. A special aura radiated off him as if he was one with his surroundings, as if he was an integral part of everything in the courtyard. That was the essence of a true spirit. Quan Chen, are you going to stay there without speaking anything? When are you going to introduce the two young friends? A soft yet cold voice sounded from Hai Yun before he swiftly appeared in front of the three. When did he? The three were immensely shocked. Did he just cover 30 meters in an instant? It almost felt like teleportation? Chapter 99, Being Accepted as an Inner Disciple. Hai Yun Master casually inspected both Bei Moi and Zhao Wei at close range even though there was no need for him to do so. He was already a mighty true spirit realm expert with more than excellent vision, so Zhao Wei didn't find it necessary for Hai Yun Master to stretch his muscles. And what was more confusing to Zhao Wei was how the hell was an obsessive-compulsive disorder dude doing what he wouldn't normally do. Did the novel get some things wrong or was his condition just a mild one? I am losing my brain cells just thinking about it. Zhao Wei kept his mind away from those thoughts and concentrated his attention on Hai Yun Master. Master, these are the most outstanding genius disciples I found from Uncle Su Ran's corp. Quan Chen stammered in surprise as he hurriedly and respectfully explained the situation. Hai Yun Master's instantaneous action had somehow confused the fella. Keep your trap shut for now. Hai Yun Master said coldly, the chill in his voice making Quan Chen feel the temperature of his body suddenly drop. Quan Chen submissively cowered in fear, respect, and confusion. Wasn't I just asked to introduce the new recruits? Master, why are you being unnecessarily cold to me? Quan Chen cried pitifully inside his mind. But no one understood Hai Yun Master more than him. His feelings could change in an instant. You haven't disappointed your master, Quan Chen. Hai Yun Master murmured a terse compliment. Quan Chen, who was standing at the side, couldn't help but feel giddy after being complimented by the person he admired. Meanwhile, Bei Moi found the atmosphere to be awkward and all as he was in a passive position. He was in awe of the man who was soon going to be his new master, but hell, the way he was looking at him made him feel uncomfortable. Bei Moi just couldn't voice it out since he was standing very close to a force of nature. He decided to peek at Zhao Wei to observe his situation and expression in the face of unadulterated scrutiny. What kind of idiotic face is that fucker wearing? Bei Moi screamed inside his mind since Zhao Wei was adorning the stupidest *T on his face. It was like defensive armor against anything, gay. Bei Moi was once again impressed by Zhao Wei's acting skills. Was there anything he couldn't pull off in a situation? This guy. Bei Moi laughed inside his mind and the discomfort he was feeling began to wear out. Through my deductions, if I am not wrong, the talents of you two should roughly be the same. Hai Yun Master nonchalantly shared his thoughts after a while. Isn't that right? A look of shock and surprise showed on both Bei Moi's and Zhao Wei's faces. Quan Chen also wasn't an exception. He knew that Zhao Wei was talented, but he didn't know he shared the same talent level as Bei Moi. He only had surface information about Zhao Wei compared to Bei Moi. Judging from your surprised expressions, then it means that my conjectures are not entirely wrong. Hai Yun Master smiled, just a little bit. A true spirit realm expert really can't be underestimated. I wonder if he's just bluffing or he has a technique capable of assessing the latent talent of an individual. Zhao Wei thought seriously. But then again, he felt at peace that he could even dupe a true spirit realm expert from fully seeing through him. It seems his personal information and identity were under tight security and the other party would only see whatever he allowed them to see regardless of their cultivation strength. Reading and experiencing it firsthand were two entirely different concepts. Zhao Wei also had an option of trying to use his God Eye variant to analyze Hai Yun Master, but he didn't go through with such actions. Courting death? Nah, it was too risky and stupid. In addition, he wouldn't be that discreet. Who knew what unusual levels of perception a master of the true spirit realm would have? He just wanted to be on good terms with the man. He was going to be his master, after all, even if it was only going to be in a very short term. What's your name, boy? Hai Yun Master curiously gazed at Zhao Wei. He felt that Zhao Wei seemed kind of special. Even though he was only a newly promoted true human rank expert, his senses were extremely sharp and he could ascertain if someone or something was special just from the subtle aura they were radiating. The problem was, Zhao Wei had restrained his aura quite well. What he found special in him was his carefree, stupid expression. Hai Yun Master had never doubted his intuition toward the exemplary. Zhao Wei saw the curiosity inside Hai Yun Master's eyes and wondered what had piqued his interest. I am Zhao Wei, Master. As if a naughty spirit had possessed Zhao Wei, he immediately performed a perfect doxa with all the respect he could muster up. The three men had their mouths hanging low and wide as they failed to process Zhao Wei's actions even after a few seconds had passed. Even Hai Yun Master was totally caught unguarded. He couldn't believe that there were rare people out there in the world who were boundlessly shameless. That doxa made him feel uncomfortable and had the urge to just accept Zhao Wei as his personal disciple immediately, or else, his eyes were going to continuously get stained. Rise up, Zhao Wei. I have already accepted you as your master. Hai Yun Master used his powers to telekinetically lift Zhao Wei's body from its shameless doxa. Zhao Wei had a beaming smile on his face, reminiscent of the morning sun, so blinding and innocent. Thank you so much, esteemed master, Zhao Wei said in a grateful voice. As the saying goes, a day as a teacher, a lifetime as a father. Master, let me offer you another kowtow. Zhao Wei then cupped his hands and was about to doxa again, but Hai Yun Master was quick enough to restrain the shameless fellow. Hai Yun Master felt at a loss and didn't know if he should cry or not. What an intense guy. Hai Yun Master cringed. Of all the people present in the garden, only Bei Moi had witnessed Zhao Wei's theatrics before. To him, it was really a bad omen and he instinctively knew the dude was up to no good. He had never met someone with balls of steel like the bastard beside him. Anyway, after Bei Moi also got a chance to introduce himself, Hai Yun Master once again measured their talents, just to be sure. The results he found were more than satisfactory. His new 2 disciples were rare gems that were going to outshine everyone in the sect if he groomed them well. It wouldn't be long before his status and prestige would be above almost all the elders in the Broken Moon clan. His ambitions were higher than the mountains. Chapter 100, Memoirs of the Talisman Emperor. As a true spirit realm elder, Hai Yun Master's time was precious and he only left some arrangements to Chuan Chen. Chuan Chen was delegated with the duty of acting as the escort of both Zhao Wei and Bei Moi. By the end of the day, the 2 new inner disciples became familiar with all establishments and divisions in the sect. The orientation was truly worth it, or else they would have risked getting lost every now and then. The geography of the Broken Moon sect was unbelievable. Author's note: it's been bothering me for quite some time now, so I decided to change the name from Broken Moon Clan to Broken Moon Sect. Throughout the physical orientation, Zhao Wei also noticed that inner disciples received different treatment in the sect. It was so obvious as seen by how the outer disciples looked so pitiful and the environment was kind of chaotic, but due to the presence of a high order of power like outer sect elders, there was some sense of governance and balance. Zhao Wei felt that he would have thrived abnormally well in such a place that resembled a crude example of a mini jungle. It would have been a hassle though, to deal with the low-level bullies and trash. A sigh left Zhao Wei's mouth as he slowly walked toward the outer sect division's scripture repository. He currently had his own top-class private courtyard with servants and all, courtesy of Hai Yun Master's influence. Also, due to being an inner disciple, especially one with an elder behind him, he could easily get himself middle-class mortal skills from the highly protected hollow building if so he wished. Currently, he was limited to one middle-class mortal skill, and with Hai Yun Master's influence, he could get another one. Just how much privilege did he have? Of course, some individuals would have been super excited by the prospect of new, better, high-level techniques, but Zhao Wei didn't put much emphasis on them. High-level techniques were good and all, but he had already read about the most ridiculous cultivation techniques in existence as a reader. Zhao Wei wouldn't push away even the lowest-level mortal skill. Be it a mortal, spiritual, earth, or heaven-tier technique, he treated all of them the same. As a seeker of knowledge, his intentions had a deeper meaning as he sought after the outer sect's scripture repository. He treated himself as an inadequate learner and the knowledge that he currently had was laughable. The outer sect's scripture repository was a free resource center and Zhao Wei would feel regrets if he ignored it. As he approached the scripture repository, Zhao Wei was met with gazes of surprise, curiosity, and interest from some of the female disciples. Who could really blame him when he looked so damn attractive, like some heavenly emperor from the 9th heaven, or all charming like Senior White? Being a beautiful existence was an inevitability when one pursued the great path of cultivation, but this notion was more in tune with women than men. Zhao Wei had just broken the matrix in advance. Ignoring the attention he was attracting as both an inner disciple and a force of masculinity, Zhao Wei silently walked into the building. The smell of wood and paper was strong in the air, more accurately, it was the smell of knowledge. In his eyes, there were many rows of extremely tall shelves that stretched far and wide. Almost limitless books were stacked inside the shelves, showcasing the richness of the Broken Moon sect. The scripture repository was just a mirror of the deep foundation of the Broken Moon sect. Zhao Wei was amazed since it was larger and more stocked than the libraries at both Guan Jan Palace and Zhao Clan. As expected. A low murmur came from him as he casually ran his fingers through rows of books. He had already singled out every other existence from his vision. His entire concentration was held by only books. Zhao Wei decided to start with the miscellaneous section. The first book that graced his hands was centered on the anatomy and metaphysical aspects of the cultivator's physique. It was titled Introduction to Spiritual Anatomy and it mostly talked about the cultivator's dantian, meridians, and mental consciousness. There was even a clean, precise diagrammatic representation of the inner body. Zhao Wei enjoyed the simple process of learning despite being a transmigrator with such basic foundational knowledge. The next book's Guide to Acupuncture Needle Skills and Journal of Medical Arts comprehensively expounded on a few medical techniques, especially the numerous hidden acupoints found in a cultivator's body. The base acupoints he had opened so far due to practicing the primordial stellar energy body refining technique were around 108 in total, but the two books theorized that there were more than 351 hidden acupoints. It was a truly fascinating concept as the books had been revised with the passage of time. The universe would never lack innovators and thinkers in its history. These geniuses, I can only admire them. Zhao Wei thought as he schemed through a few more miscellaneous books. How to Cook Heavenly Dishes 101, Knowledge of Heavenly Treasures and Earthly Materials, Basic Medical Pills Encyclopedia, Insights of a Diligent Painter. The list was so long and Zhao Wei discarded whatever he considered useless. Due to the effects of his accelerated thinking process, he could easily surf through hundreds of books in a matter of minutes and sieve out the unneeded knowledge. Memoirs of the Talisman Emperor. What type of drug did the writer sniff to write such a masterpiece? Zhao Wei unknowingly shook his head as he recalled the contents of the said book. It talked about the Talisman Emperor in his initial days as a crippled young man with a childhood sweetheart that soon betrayed him. A bunch of misfortunes followed him through his early life, but soon, he awakened his memories when he had been a supreme emperor of heaven. The Memoirs of the Talisman Emperor was a crack story and had no relation to the novel Talisman Emperor Zhao Wei had read in his past life. The beginning made them share some similarities though, just like many other Xiangxia-themed stories. Putting that aside, Zhao Wei continued to casually read through techniques in the scripture repository. When 3 hours passed, he had already memorized all the low-tier mortal skills which numbered tens of thousands. The books were so many that it gave people the illusion that they were virtually limitless. Well, Zhao Wei's peculiar actions had been witnessed by many and they thought that he was insane and greedy. Didn't he know that if he was too greedy he would suffer from indigestion? All in all, Zhao Wei didn't care as long as no one disturbed his peace. His identity as an inner disciple also served as a special deterrence against busybodies. There was no reason for some unnecessary session of face slapping. Anyway, after Zhao Wei got whatever he wanted, he walked back to his residence as if he owned the damned place.
Thanks for listening.